So, welcome back everyone. We'll be discussing today's session 3 for the TDS, TCS and advanced tax provisions. We have been discussing TDS and barring my bad handwriting, we've almost covered all the sections of TDS. I hope you can see on the screen. We have covered section 192, 192A, 193, 194. I'll quickly say the name also. Dividend, 194A interest, 194B, BB, which is winnings and winnings from crossword race puzzles, etc., and winning from race houses, respectively. 194C, C for contract, very easy to remember. 194D, GH, which is for types of commission, respectively, insurance commission, lottery commission, and general brokerage and commission. 194DA, which is your insurance proceeds, which are taxable. 194E, especially in case of non-resident sports person, non-resident sports association, and your non-resident entertainer. 194I, rent. 194IA, rent, sale of immovable property except rural agricultural land. 194IB, rent in case of other than 194IE, 194I. 194IC, joint development agreement, if the joint development agreement with the consideration is paid in any mode of cash or bank, etc. 194J, professional receipts, technical receipts, non-compete fee, director fees, royalty. 194K, mutual funds unit. 194LA, compulsory acquisition. 194M, contract payments, brokerage commission, and professional receipts, not covered in their respective sections. 194N, cash withdrawal. 194O, e-commerce operator. 194P, special sections introduced for senior citizens who are of the age of 75 or more during the previous year. 194Q, purchase and sale of goods, TDS on purchase of goods. 194R, which is again a very important section because it has been introduced with effect from 1st July 2022, and we were discussing the provisions for 194R. So before we proceed, anyone has any doubt in any of the respective section, please be free to ask so that we can discuss 194R. I'll quickly revise 194R for you also. But in case anyone has any doubt in the provisions which we have discussed, please feel free to ask. I'll give you 1 minute. Go through it. Very good evening, Koshki. So it was a very quick snippet. So we have discussed all of them. We have covered their respective clarifications, case laws, amendments. All of this has been discussed timely. So in case you still face any issue, do not hesitate. Please ask your questions. More than happy to entertain them. No doubts? Badhiya. So let us quickly begin with 194R. So we were discussing section 194R. It's a very, very important section because first, it has been introduced from this year itself. Secondly, the variety this section has, the clarification this section has got, I think it is more than anything which we expect, because obviously this section was actually very required because people were claiming expenses for the benefits they were providing in promotion of their business, but the other person who was receiving those benefits was not actually highlighting it as their income, or they would not even know that, oh yeah, this has to be our income. So now it has become very more clear, and the tracking has become very more clear. with section 194R being introduced. Okay, so let's begin. Please screen where I am. So we quickly discussed this. Sorry, just 1 second. So we quickly discussed who would be the payer in 194R or the deductor, the person who is providing that benefit other than individual or HUF who do not have the turnover of more than 1 crore in case of business in the preceding financial year, or gross receipts more than 50 lakhs in the preceding financial year in case of profession. Paying any resident person. Rate 10%. Then time of deduction, again here, time of deduction same. Generally, I told you it would actually depend the stage of reduction when the benefit has provided. I gave an example of the tour given to the trader associate by the trader association to the traders on achieving the targets. So there was different stage where one has to actually decide where the deduction might be attracted, but then we concluded, or we can safely say that the deduction would be attracted where actually the ticket is booked and handed over or confirmed for the that so and so date you will be traveling and the tickets are confirmed and the booking is done or it is handed over. At that stage, it would be safe that the benefit has been provided and the deduction should happen. Threshold limit, when the benefit is of more than 20,000, then this section would be attracted. Please remember, yahan pe 20,000 pe case can come. I explained it last time also that even if this section, this is only for this year, you have to be very careful. Even if this section is effective from 1st July 2022, but to see the condition, you will see whether the benefit is exceeding 20,000. You will start to see it from April to March. Pura April 2022 say March 2023 tak. If it exceeds 20,000, TDS is attractable, but it would be only be attractable to the benefit provided after or on or after 1st July 2022. Okay, just remember this thing. Uske alawa, I told you that following what would not be covered: employer-employee relationship would not be covered. A person who is a general customer and is receiving that benefit not as of a business or profession would not be covered. Recipient, obviously, who's a non-resident would not be covered. And if you are getting a benefit not related to business or profession, that person would not be covered. When you first read section 194R, the first starting line of this section is the TDS is to be deducted by the person who is responsible. I'm just focusing on the word responsible for providing the benefit. So a question can come to you. So traders are getting that incentive of tour, which they won because of achieving the target. Association is the one providing that benefit. Up, you will say, कि actually tour operator tickets book करके दे रहे तो actually तो मैम 194R तो tour operator को काटना चाहिए. No, he is just a medium. He is just a medium to give that benefit, but the person who is responsible for providing the benefit is association. So it would be always on association to deduct the TDS under 194R, and the TDS can be deducted under different methods. You can ask the trader first to pay the advance tax and then only you will provide the benefit, or you can gross it up and provide the tax, or you can recover the TDS amount from them and then provide it. So all that various methods can be done for recovering the tax and ensuring that before giving the benefit, the tax is deposited. Again, the value on which tax has to be deducted is fair market value. But if you're already a manufacturer of the goods which you're providing free of cost, then it would be the price which you charge from customer. Or if you have purchased some goods and then passed it on as a benefit, then the TDS would be deducted on the purchase price. The purchase price would be considered for calculating the value of 20,000 or more. Then there were certain clarifications which we discussed: sales discount pay, rebates pay, cash discounts pay. In pay, there would be, they are benefit, but no TDS under 194R would be attracted. Similarly, if you go and purchase 10 things and you get 12 in the price of 10, that would also not be concluded as a TDS a benefit for 194R. Then what would be actually benefit? Free samples, free tours, programs, tickets, or tickets to some events, sponsored trip, as I discussed, medical samples to medical practitioners, and for medical samples to medical practitioners. Well, last class we discussed the example of if you're providing it to hospital and then hospital is giving to doctor who's an employee, the TDS will be deducted by you for the company, which is the hospital. And then if further hospital is giving to the employee, they will deduct 192. But if the employee doctor, if the doctor is not an employee, he's a consultant or he comes on a visiting basis, then 194R from you to company, which is hospital, and hospital to doctor, again 194R, or directly from you to doctor at 194R, all is acceptable. So this is what we discussed in the previous class, and we said that if you're providing anything to the government hospital, no TDS. Now we'll be discussing some more clarifications of case scenarios which has come, and it is very, I'll say very appreciative, though still there would be conditions or still there would be scenarios which might be questionable in the future. But at this stage, when the section is introduced, the CBDT has given its best to give the clarifications, and the recommendation should go to them on this part, that yes, they have given a well thought clarification covering all scenarios. So abhi tak I was all quick because it was just revision. But now we will understand each aspect in detail around it. First of all, let's discuss about, first scenario we're discussing about social media influencers. Social media influencers, or in general, especially if I'm talking about I'm a designer, I just want my collection to be displayed to public at large. Okay. So generally I approach a social media influencer or a celebrity that they wear my collection, okay, to an event, to say, to an award ceremony, and obviously post a picture of that on Instagram saying wearing so and so label, okay, and my obviously my design would be promoted, correct? So there can be two things. One, they can retain those clothes or outfits, or they can give me back once they have worn it for the event. Most of the cases when they give back, so either it can be retained by the social media influencer or returned to me. So most of the cases, the idea is just to give them for an event, they wear it and they give me back. So in that case, there is no benefit arising to them. Mera promotion is happening, which is true, but no exclusive benefit which they will keep for themselves. Wahan pe nothing is happening. Yes, you can say for an event, they are getting clothes to wear, which otherwise they would have purchased otherwise. But then there are 50 designer sittings, you can approach them to wear their label. So that is all okay. So return hua, so no 194R would be attracted. But if they retain it, free may I have given them the cloth and they're wearing it and now they've retained it, obviously section 194R would come and TDS has to be paid on it. Simple. Again, very thoughtful, obvious things that agar they are keeping it, they're getting a benefit out of their profession being influencer, and they have, the TDS has to be deductible. And it's not that कि आपने decide किया था return कर देंगे but उन्होंने retain कर दिया. That is a different fight. So let's do not get into it. Okay. Another example, another clarification which has come on is loan waiver. loan waiver or loan settlement. अब एक तो first of all, it is not applicable in case of everyone. Just let me open this book material also. So I was talking about loan waiver and loan settlement. First of all, this is it visible? The screen is visible, right? Okay. So first of all, this is only applicable to a one-time loan settlement. Every time you're doing loan settlement, then this clarification would not apply, and then loan settlement would be treated as perquisite. Secondly, the loan which is getting settled. अब एक तरीके से लोन सेटलमेंट हो रहा है तो ऑब्वियसली देयर इज लेंडर एंड बोरो. अब बोरोर के लिए इट कैन बी ट्रीटेड एज income. वो section 41 की provisions में we have seen it can be treated as income. That is one thing. Or cannot be treated as income. That is again one thing. But for lender, it is already a situation of loss कि भाई loan को waive करना पड़ रहा है, settle करना पड़ रहा है. Now, if we apply TDS on it all together, then it becomes a hurdle for them again. So, to remove the difficulties, it is said that lender, if they are from the category of these 10, which is general public lenders like public financial institutions, scheduled bank, cooperative bank, primary cooperative agriculture and rural development bank, state finance corporation, state industrial investment corporation being a government company engaged in business, deposit taking NBFCs, systematically important non-deposit taking NBFCs, housing bank companies, public sector companies basically, which are into lending or lending finance for houses in India and asset reconstruction company. So if these are the lenders and they are waiving your loan or settling your loan, if it is actually section 194, it is actually a benefit which is as a borrower you are getting, but section 194R would not be attracted, number one. Number two, कि मैम अगर कोई और lender है and वहां पे settlement हो रहा है, then definitely your 194R would come. 194R would come. Secondly, it is not necessary to say, or it is absolutely wrong to interpret it कि if 194R is not applicable, that means borrower के हाथ पे भी income नहीं होगा. It would be wrong to say that. So 194R, if not applicable, does not mean that borrower is exempt from taxing that income if it is taxable. Okay, so 194R applicability is no way exempting borrower from making it taxable. So just remember that. Then next we come to my favorite, which is conferences. Now क्या होता है अभी recently let's discuss about this thing. Shark Tank means the product came, I think Zido, who did not get the funding, who was into the same consumer or product segment. Okay, so what he shared a very interesting marketing technique that हम अपने प्रोडक्ट को कैसे मार्केट में इन्फ्लुएंस करते हैं. Whenever a product is launched, we arrange a conference for the influencers. We show them the product, give them the sample, and एक दिन का stay, खाना पीना, everything is there. So naturally, as an influencer or as a dealer, you are getting benefit, you are getting free stay, you are getting free stay, you are getting good khana pina, and sometimes there is liquor also. So it's a good benefit provided by the company to such dealers or such dealers or market influencers, all of them, right? So there is benefit. But इस पे कॉन्फ्रेंस पे एक क्लैरिफिकेशन आई ना, दिस इज अ नेसेसरी बिजनेस एक्टिविटी, और अगर इस पे काटने लग गए एंड देयर सो मेनी डीलर्स इन्वॉल्व, it would naturally discourage people to promote their product such or in such an organic way. So the government gives the clarification here that if you are conducting a conference, for what? For what purposes? Either for a new product launch, or about discussing how the product has to be made better, or about how to obtain better orders from dealers and customers, or about teaching them sales techniques, or about addressing their concerns, or about reconciliation of accounts. So only these. Then even if the such conference is providing them incentives and benefit, but they will not be deductible for section 194R. Okay, and here we're talking about these benefits only. If you're conducting a conference as achieving the sales target, वो वहाँ पे clarification है कि वो taxable होगा, definitely होगा वो, because उन्होंने sales targets achieve किए, then you are giving. यहाँ पे it's about promoting your line first. It's about promoting your line and addressing the concerns. So if that is the criteria, conference is happening, facilities being provided, not tax deductible under 194R. अब यहाँ पे भी गवर्नमेंट ने कहा कि भाई टेक इवन इफ यू आर प्रमोटिंग योर प्रोडक्ट एंड डूइंग सच कॉन्फ्रेंस, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो कॉन्फ्रेंस लेजर ट्रिप में हो जाए. So the moment that conference is getting converted into a leisure trip or a leisure component is added, then whatever expenses are attributable to that leisure trip and leisure component, that would be subject to 194R. So it should be pure business conference के लिए they have come, they're discussing. Obviously 10 to 5 का conference है, सुबह breakfast है, रात को आपका dinner है, एक small get together है, that is okay. Then next day भी conference है, तो 2 days का conference है, they have come for it, discussed it, went fine. अब ऐसे करके 2 days की जगह conference 2 days का है, आप उसे 5 days extend करके बोल दिया कि okay, we will plan a trip or we'll plan a small day or outing for you. No. Leisure element should not be there. If a leisure element is there, then whatever expenses are there for leisure trip or leisure component, that would be deductible for section 194R. That would be considered as benefit. Clear हुआ? Secondly, अगर you have invited dealer, fine. But now in that conference may you are asking dealers to come up with their families, and you are bearing the cost of family expenditures also, their family members also. That expenditure which is for family will be benefit ho jayega and would be deductible under section 194R. Thirdly, now this is very interesting point. Thirdly, they are saying, ठीक है, हम मानते हैं we are, you have conference, आपका 2 days conference है. अब some guests might arrive 1 day early, they are coming from far away. वहाँ पे flight उसी दिन का नहीं है. अब conference starts at 10 in the morning, but some might not have a flight to catch early. So some might come 1 day earlier, or some might go 1 day later. So वो कहते हैं okay fine, conference is for 2 days. So 1 day before and 1 day after expenses is also allowed. That means 1 day before and 1 day after expenses, so we will not treat as benefit. But beyond that, if it happens, then that would be treated as benefit. So as I've told, suppose conference is for 17th and 18th October. So what are the expenses for 16th of October and for 19th of October would be assumed that are for pure conference benefits, and important it is should not be leisure and family members. And on that 194R would not be deducted. But suppose 15th October को भी आ गया कोई, and 19th के बाद 21st October को भी, if anyone is staying, that is again would be considered as leisure element, and that would be considered as benefit for 194R. ठीक है, so ये 3 exception clear हुआ? किसी को इसमें कोई doubt? Perfect. Then अब आप बोलोगी मैम एक इश्यू तो है, वन सेकेंड, so now you will say कि मैम एक इशू है, अब आप suppose it is getting taxable, the amount is taxable as in the amount is treated as benefit under section 194R, right? But एक problem है ना, there are suppose 100 dealers coming, अब how will I attribute the cost? चलो rooms का still it is understandable कि हाँ this is what this room is for this person, this room is for this person, this room. But food में how would I differentiate the cost of someone is non-alcoholic, someone is alcoholic, someone takes liquor, someone does not take liquor, someone has enjoyed a particular benefit, someone has not enjoyed a particular benefit. How would I track? So government कहती है अच्छा, so we have one solution for you. What you do, whatever benefits you're providing, this all you take it as your promotional expense and take a deduction under section 37, right? Business related expenses there. You take it as deduction, which is pretty fine. But since you are unable to identify how much a particular dealer has got a benefit, how much a particular person has got a benefit when it comes to group cost or group activities, then what you do, आप TDS मत काटो, don't deduct TDS, but at the same time, since you're not deducting the TDS and the other person might not treat it as income, then don't take the expense ka deduction also. Don't take the expense deduction also, and we will not consider you as assessing different. This has come as a clarification from the department. We have only this solution बहुत सोचने के बाद, that if you are unable to identify who has deducted what, then you add back the expenditure, whatever is non-identifiable to a single dealer, and that's it. Do not deduct the TDS. So it is on you as a company to allocate it to each dealer, because unnecessary if you allocate, the other person can say कि आपने ये कैसे दिखा दिया मेरा income, this benefit I did not get. So you have to see what you can avoid and what you cannot avoid. Okay, clear? Dealer wala part was clear. Interesting, you know. I pretty much like this. Then next comes your okay. Reimbursement. अब इस reimbursement को ध्यान से सुनना, it is interesting. अब reimbursement expenses में best example I think is of auditors basically. फिर auditor है XYZ company, मैसेज XYZ associates, ठीक है? They are the auditor of ABC Private Limited. Okay. Now, if auditors get anything as a benefit, they are getting that benefit out of business and profession, and that should be taxable, right? One thing which you pay to them is the fees, which is 194J में tax deductible, because again, it's providing for the services. Now, professional services. But now, listen carefully. Auditor comes and there are other expenses also. जो उनके ऑडिटर्स करते हैं, लाइक फूड एक्सपेंसेस, ट्रैवलिंग एक्सपेंसेस, hotel stay. Either everything is provided by ABC and the auditors does not have to spend anything from their pocket and get it reimbursed. Okay, or what happens, hotel ka to ABC takes care of and baki they say auditors ko, you do the kharcha, give us the bill. This happens. So we are talking about this scenario, which is reimbursements of bills. अब इसमें two scenarios है. If the bill is in the name of ABC, or if the bill is in the name of XYZ Associates. Now, who is reimbursing back? Who would reimburse? ABC in both the scenarios, because auditors, we all know auditors do not take anything from their pocket, right? So ABC would reimburse in both the scenarios. If the food bills, if all the bills are in the names of ABC, then there is no discussion of section 194R on that reimbursement of bills. I'm not talking about the professional fees. I'm talking just purely about the expenses which work on reimbursement. Okay? So on that, there is no 194R. But if the bills are in the names of XY Associates, as ABC Private Limited, you will reimburse it because you have to. But then this would be treated as 194R, even if cost, अब आप बोलोगे कि मैम कुछ extra benefit तो नहीं हुआ, ABC ने वैसे भी देना था, just because the name is getting changed, why are we treating it as 194R? But the clarification says so that if the bills are in the names of the person other than who is reimbursing, bills are in the name of person other than who is reimbursing, then it would be a taxable, it would be a perquisite for the purpose of section 194R and the TDS would be deductible. There you will say कि मैम cost to cost reimbursement है, extra तो कुछ नहीं मिला. No problem भाई, cost to cost भी है, XYZ Associates के नाम पे नहीं, ABC के नाम पे नहीं है, XYZ Associates के नाम पे the bill is, you have to deduct TDS under 194R. So just remember this. Now, if you are as an accountant of a company also, or as advisor of a company, make sure the auditors, or especially wherever they're reimbursing the bills, it is in the name of the company. It is in the name of the company. Clear? Also, sometimes it might happen that reimbursement and the consideration for the services, all of it together is getting tax deductible under 194J. All of this together is considered as total consideration by ABC to auditors, and वो पूरे के पूरे भी 194J can't win. So if 194J already has happened, or 194C, whatever the scenario is, the deduction has already happened, then 194R, ये वाले scenario base would not be applicable, because already in one section the TDS is deducted, another section the TDS would not be deducted. It is in general also. Any particular income would be subject to TDS in particular section only. We will discuss certain exceptions which we will come to, but remember a particular TDS deduction would be therefore particular section only. Okay? Clear? Reimbursement वाला पार्ट क्लियर. अब एक सिनेरियो यहाँ पे और दिया हुआ है प्योर एजेंट का. अब प्योर ये तो एक रीइंबर्समेंट हो गया बाय क्लाइंट्स एक्सेट्रा. एम्प्लॉइज वाला रीइंबर्समेंट 192, वहां पे टैक्सेबिलिटी देखो इफ इट इज एज पर द लिमिट्स व्हिच वी हैव डिस्कस्ड और नॉट. अब one person can be a pure agent. Pure agent means he's totally work on for you exclusive agent है. उस केस में he will have reimbursements to make along with whatever he's supplying you or whatever services he's providing. वो one consideration है. But at the same time, he will make reimbursement from you for moving from one place to another, traveling expenses, staying expenses, and other expenses which are related to the business. Correct? अब agent है, he's not an employee. Obviously, you might deduct TDS under 194C for it. But what about the reimbursements in case of pure agents? What about the reimbursements in case of pure agent. On whether on these reimbursements 194R would be attracted. So clarification has come on these reimbursement 194R would not be attracted. But the condition you have to remember that there is pure agent relationship and the expenses has been incurred on authorization only. ऐसा नहीं है he is doing anything on his behalf and he has that full liberty. Authorization होना चाहिए. Reimbursement amount separately indicated होना चाहिए. फिर आप उस पर 194C भी नहीं काटोगे. ठीक है. And at the same time it is for some procurement of supplies or services. ऐसे नहीं है कि randomly वो reimbursement डाल दे. भाई दिखना चाहिए that he has worked for it and he is claiming the reimbursements for it. ठीक है. So that is all about pure agent and reimbursement expenses. Reimbursement expenses में किसी को doubt? Loan settlement waiver, conferences, social media influencers, whatever we have discussed today. अभी तक किसी को डाउट? बस all clarifications are clear. Perfect. Yes, cost की अगर आपका बेनिफिट 1 जुलाई से ही पहले 20,000 का हो गया तो टाइम ऑफ डिडक्शन टैक्सेबल whatever you will provide after 1 जुलाई. अगर वो 20,000 1 जुलाई से ज्यादा हो गया है, TDS is attracted. TDS is attracted, but only on those benefit what would be provided on or after 1 July. ठीक है. उसके अलावा there has been a clarification that whatever is given as bonus shares, right shares, वो 194R में नहीं आएंगे. By a public company, वो 194R में नहीं आएंगे. Then another clarification is if you're providing anything to Embassy High Commission or Embassy High Commission is providing anything, that on that they would not deduct TDS under 194R because there are certainly many benefits provided to the diplomats that would not come. Okay. Then loan settlement wala part is done. So I think everything is covered under all the clarifications. You can go through it on in your module, take 1 minute, and then we will proceed to another section, which is the last section. आज बहुत कुछ कवर करना है, so we will speed up. But the interesting part of this section is it is relatable because we have seen this a lot. So it becomes very relatable. And I'm assuming that obviously there would be more scenarios in future, more clarification in features would come. But if you will see, they have interestingly covered many of the things. And you can safely assume a question from this because this is pretty interesting. Next is section 195. Abhi tak you have seen there are many sections which covers only resident pay, right? बहुत कम sections है जहाँ पे non-resident are also included, but otherwise you will see there are all or many sections which covers only resident pay. हर जगह resident pay, हर जगह resident pay लगा है. Non-resident comes hardly anywhere. One is obviously they are coming in your 192, 192A, then there is 194B, BB, is 194 E, which is specifically for them. But again, काफी सारी जगह we have seen resident person only. So section 195 is a very interesting section. How many of you know about double tax avoidance agreement? Okay. So here we talk about any person. This section would be trusted or would be more clear if you already have an idea about how international taxation operates. Okay, any person making payment to any non-resident foreign company in which there is no specific section to deduct TDS would deduct TDS under section 195 if that income is taxable in India. If that income is taxable in India, so even if a non-resident paying to another non-resident, दोनों का कुछ इधर P है, permanent establishment है, नहीं है, but that income is getting taxable in India, section 195 would be attracted. You have to deduct the TDS under section 195. Now, taxability in India can be seen by two things. Either it can be seen by section 9 and obviously received in India wala part, section 9 which tells about income deemed to be accrued or arise in India, or it can be seen by respective DTAA, which is double tax avoidance agreement of a specific country. So wherever, if whatever the country is involved with India, you see the avoidance agreement. वहां पे बताते हैं what type of income would be taxable in which country, whether the resident country or the source country. यानी so if it is in source country, अब जैसे इंडिया में उसका source है, but the person who is actually earning it is in say Singapore, so you will take the DTAA of Singapore. You will see whether as per that clause, suppose capital gain income hai. So whether it is taxed in the source country, that is where the asset is, or whether it is taxed in the resident country, or and at what rate it is taxed. So that is defined under DTAA. So obviously a person, an assessee, would go by the choice which is more beneficial to it, that is when it is not taxable. So if section 9 says it is taxable, DTAA says it is not taxable, then obviously you will take it as it is not taxable in India. But if DTAA says it is taxable, section 9 says it is not taxable, then obviously you will go as per the non-taxable, which is section 9. It's not important that always you have to pick up DTAA, either the Income Tax Act or DTAA, whichever is beneficial. Again, the rates also goes the same. As per the Income Tax Act or DTAA, whichever rate is beneficial, उसपे you will deduct the TDS. You will deduct the TDS. And so, but ये चीज pretty clear हो गया कि section 195 would be attracted only if the income is taxable in India. And उसके लिए you have to read DTAA. There is no standard rule to it. Okay, but 195 would be attracted only if the income is taxable in India. And tabhi, after this, then you go and proceed to file forms 15 CA, CB and all that. Okay? Clear? अब 195 में there are two types of case laws. One is your VS Dempo का, whereby it is written that VS Dempo company है, shipping company है. Shipping company section 172 this is applicable to them, which is a whole section for taxation of shipping companies who are non-resident in India, which says when they come and leave India port, they have to ensure that the tax is deposited, return is filed, everything. So if section 172 applies to a company, then there is no need to apply section 195 because वो already सारी compliances करके जाए. The government will get taxed then and there itself. Everything would be done then and there. So section 195 would not be applicable. And always remember, the crux of this section is the income should be taxable in India. So for example, there is a case of Wishcraft International Entertainment, I think something like that. What happened? आपने एक program करना था, okay? You have to do one program for which you contacted an agent outside India. Okay, he's a non-resident. and you wanted certain types of artists to do the program. So suppose you wanted a band to perform, okay? This non-resident agent commission saw bands and then this asked that band to perform in India. Now, whatever payment you're making to the band, वो 194E में deductible होगा. But whatever payment you're making to this commission agent, will that be attracted under 195? The answer is no, because यहाँ पे उसका income, why? Because India में कुछ services नहीं दी. Services are given outside India. उन्होंने बस contact करके दे दिया. तो वो commission India में taxable ही नहीं है. So if something is not taxable in India, 195 would not be attracted. Clear? अब इसी का एक provision which is introduced this year itself. Let's see if it is there in your amendment. Yeah. तो एक amendment आया इस साल, section 239A. Everyone please on the screen. अब कभी कभार you do not get generally the refund of TDS very easily. So 239A, this section has come only if you have deducted the TDS in the section 195, except in case of interest. So इसमें what is happening? This section is basically for refund of TDS under section 195, exclusively for refund of TDS under section 195. You are the person who is in India, okay? So you are Mr. A, who made a payment to XYZ Inc, which is USA ka company. Okay? Now the problem, what happened was, you were not very sure about the taxability, whether it would be taxable in India or not, but you have to deduct it on due or receipt, which due or credit, whichever is on credit or payment, whichever is earlier. So you deducted the tax because otherwise default आ जाता. We will understand what are the defaults also, but otherwise क्या होता? Default आ जाता, problem हो जाता, right? So you deducted the tax, but later on, after consultations with your tax advisors and everyone, you got to know that TDS नहीं काटना था. And generally पता है ये जो payments होते हैं ना foreign companies को, foreign clients को, they don't understand the concept of TDS. They most of the cases में person out of pocket gross up करके ही TDS deposit कराते हैं generally, because they are very clear कि we want a full payment, whatever you have to pay to the Indian government, deal it on your own. Okay, so in case में generally क्या होता है, deductor खुद के account से gross up करके they pay, but later on you got to know क्योंकि उस time in haste to skip any default or to make sure that no default happens, you deposited the TDS. अब deposit तो कर दिया, अब later on you realize that it was not taxable in India. The income was not taxable in India, and the moment the income is not taxable in India, that means TDS under 195 is not attracted. Not taxable in India, no TDS under 195. I know it looks like 19S, but this is 195. Okay, so now what will you do? So as per this 239A, this section which is introduced is for the easing out purpose. अब यहाँ पे section में there are certain conditions. Condition number 1, first आपका TDS section 195 में deduct होना चाहिए, except TDS for 195 में deduct हुआ है, but it is for in the nature of income of interest. Interest पे है, तो you cannot use section 239A. Other section, जैसे capital gains पे है, or royalty पे you have deducted the TDS, or any other part पे you have deducted the TDS, under section 195, you can approach for 239A. When you will make the approach, you will make an approach to your assessing officer. By when? By 30 days. Within 30 days from date of पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्स. अब सबसे पहले डेट ऑफ पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्स है, दैट मीन्स द टैक्स हैज टू बी डिपॉजिटेड. ऐसा नहीं है मैं आज ही अप्रोच कर लूंगी, नो, टैक्स हैज टू बी डिपॉजिट. यहाँ पे रिफंड लेना है, द रिफंड हैज टू बी टेकन. ठीक है, डेट ऑफ पेमेंट ऑफ टैक्स विद इन 30 days आई विल अप्रोच टू द AO by filing form 29D. This income on which TDS was deducted is not taxable in India. Kindly refund the amount. ठीक है, अब preconditions is clear. Tax has to be deducted. Tax has been deposited. Now you are thinking it is not taxable. Then you approach it. अब AO is not necessary कि आप बोलोगे कि it is not taxable. He will take it as not taxable. No, he will also do his own research. He will also take his own time. But he has to give you an answer in what time? In 6 months. 6 months from what date? From the date of payment. Sorry, 6 months from the end of the month in which the application was received. Okay, he will take 6 months from the end of the month to give and reply whether this particular transaction was taxable or not, for which you're asking the refund. If it is not taxable, then he will give you. If he thinks it is taxable and your application should be rejected, then he will also tell you. But before rejecting the application, he will give you opportunity of being heard. He will give you an opportunity of being heard. But if you're not satisfied, आपको लग रहा है कि AO is not understanding the situation, can you appeal it? Yes, you can appeal it. Well, if you're not satisfied by his rejection, then you may make an appeal to CIT कि बाबा इस पे TDS नहीं कटना चाहिए था, मैंने काट दिया, डिपॉजिट करा दिया, प्लीज गिव मी द रिफंड. एंड जो भी रिफंड आएगा, यू विल गेट इंटरेस्ट आल्सो ऑन दैट राइटफुली. सो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज गिवन इन द अमेंडमेंट. दिस इज अबाउट सेक्शन 239A, which is in relation to 195. Chances of it coming in your exam is so, but you should know. ठीक है, इंटरेस्टिंग. Now let's discuss some miscellaneous provisions before we go to TCS. TCS would be interesting. Honestly, TCS again, as a 3-4 years back was simple, but with each and every provision coming now and then, TCS भी पापा मेरे को लगता है एक दिन बहुत लंबा हो जाएगा. But no problem. Very good. Now, TDS के सारे sections over. किसी को कोई भी doubt है, they can ask. Now we will understand some general things, which though I have said it before, but कुछ general items. बाकी I know मैम 194 LA LB ये सब रह गए. These are all in relation to international taxation. जो वहां पे given है उतना ही TDS rate यहाँ पे है. So pretty simple. This you can understand by reading itself. So back to the screen. Now, section 196 has given one general clarification that whenever you're making a payment to government, to RBI, to any established corporation under Central Act, which is exempt from income, जो आपके 1023 की maybe lines पे है, mutual fund, which is specified under section 1023D, जिसका income taxable नहीं होता. If you're making the payment to them, which is in the nature of any income arising to them, interest, dividend, anything, you will not deduct the TDS. The reason is very simple. These are all government entities. Government का TDS काट के government को deposit करना. That's why they said why take so much. So in general, no TDS is required to be deducted. ठीक है. उसके अलावा there is section 197 and 198. First of all, everyone on the screen, दो sections हैं, section 197 and 198, 7A, 197 and 197A. पहले तो इसमें clarification क्या है? These are the sections for lower or no deduction of TDS. And this is only for no deduction. First of all, both section of दोनों confusing नहीं है. इसमें you make an application to AO for particular types of income. AO will give the certificate. And उस बेस पे या तो सर्टिफिकेट वुड बी कि इस पर्सन का टीडीएस नहीं काटना. Who will make the application? Obviously the deductee, the person जिसको इनकम हो रहा है, he will make an application to AO. The person who is earning the income, he will make an application to AO that AO, sir, you know, I have only this income and I have so many brought forward losses. As you can see, nothing would be taxable or very less would be taxable. So AO will see all the records because he has all your income statements, all the returns you have filed. He will see कि हाँ, he is saying true, he has so many brought forward losses. Plus, इस साल भी कुछ taxability नहीं है. He has so many deductions also, or he has his income deductible under some special deduction section of chapter 6A heading C, whatever is the provisions. There can be various scenarios, okay? So he decides, yes, if TDS would be deducted, he would claim refund. So why block his money for the entire year? So, and then we have to give the interest also on that refund. So AO issues a certificate which is in the name of the person who is earning the income. कि इस person की इस sections में अगर कुछ income होता है, all of these, then that tax would either would not be deducted or would be deducted at a lower rate. And that lower rate can be any rate. If surprisingly, that low rate can be in decimals also, like 4.33%, 1.45%, कुछ भी rate हो सकता है. That would be effectively decided by AO on an average he is used. Okay. So that certificate, when it is issued to you, you will give a copy, not issue. You will give a copy to the payer of these sections, which are there on your screen, and they will keep it as track record. And the PAN should obviously be there because AO से letter आ रहा है तो PAN तो होगा ही. And they will use that certificate while deducting the TDS, while filing the return, the information will be given. ठीक है. 197 में this happens. 197A, on the contrary, is a self-declaration provision. इसमें no deduction है. इसमें यहाँ पे lower वाला situation ही नहीं. It is a self-declaration provision. Self-declaration by whom? Self-declaration by assessee. यहाँ पे आपने सुना होगा फॉर्म 15G एंड फॉर्म 15H. दोनों में फर्क क्या आता है? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, दे आर द सेम फॉर्म, सेम टाइप ऑफ फॉर्म है. बस 15G इज इन केस ऑफ general person. 15H can be only filed by a resident senior citizen. So if you're not a senior citizen, you cannot file the form. This declaration is to be given every year at the beginning of the year. अब दोनों में फर्क है. First of all, low deduction of section 197A is not applicable to all sections. It is applicable only to 192A. साथ साथ revise the nature of payment also. Premature withdrawal of PF. 193, 194A interest, then 194D, 194DA, 194I, 194K. सबसे पहले इन केसेस में ही यू कैन गेट 15G 15H. सो बैंक को बहुत सारे सीनियर सिटीजन से दे गेट 15H इन मेनी सिचुएशंस. रेंट के केस में दिस इज वेरी कॉमन. सो लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ 194I. सिर्फ इन्हीं के लिए मैं 15G 15H दे सकती हूँ, एंड पैन हैज टू बी मैंडेटरी कोटेड ऑन द फॉर्म. इफ नॉट कोटेड, इट वुड प्रिज्यूम यू हैव नॉट गिवन द पैन, हायर रेट्स वुड बी एप्लीकेबल. So suppose I am a person who of the age of, I am not though, but if suppose I am a person who is of the age of 50 years and I have rent income from an ATM space which I have given on rent. Okay, ATM space है वो मैंने रेंट पे दे दिया और उससे मुझे टोटल इनकम आता है 2,40,000. 20,000 a month, 2,40,000 I get a rent income. I have no other income. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है कि ऑब्वियसली मेरा कुछ टैक्स भी ड्यू नहीं होगा. सो इफ द इनकम विच इज गेटिंग जनरेटेड, if the income which is getting generated for which I have to file Form 15G is less than the below exemption limit, is less than the below exemption limit, only then I can file Form 15G. I have what did I say? The income for which I'm filing Form 15G should be less than the below exemption limit. 15G I'm saying, not 197A. Okay, number one, the income should be less than the exemption limit, the maximum amount not chargeable to tax. Then only 15G would be filed, and then only this person would, who is the deductor, would not deduct the tax. But if on the contrary, suppose I have a rent coming, instead of 20,000, I have a rent of 30,000 a month, which makes to 3,60,000. Okay. उसके बाद I have some investments under ATD and ATC. 1 lakh ATC में है, 20,000 ATD में. तो 240 हो गया. अगेन टैक्सेबल इनकम तो लो हो गया, बिलो हो गया, लेस देन बेसिक एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट हो गया, राइट? टैक्सेबल इनकम लेस देन बेसिक एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट हो गया. कैन आई हियर फाइल फॉर्म 15G? द आंसर इज नो. The income itself for which you are filing Form 15G should be below basic exemption limit. It is not a strict statement to make कि बाबा मेरा इनकम वैसे टैक्सेबल इनकम है लेस देन बेसिक एग्जेम्पशन लिमिट, आई एम रेडी टू फाइल. नो, the income for which you're filing this 15G should be less than basic exemption limit. Only then you can file for 15G. Secondly, this is not in the case of resident senior citizen. उनका बस tax liability nil होना चाहिए. That means even after taking 87A, the tax liability, if is coming to nil, no problem. They can file 15H because obviously senior citizen है. So suppose ये वाला केस 3,60,000 मेरे को 194I में रेंट मिल रहा है, ठीक है. उसके अलावा मेरा कुछ FD इंटरेस्ट भी है 50,000 का, बट अगेन टोटल कितना हुआ 410. इस पे जो भी टैक्स आएगा 87A के रिबेट के बाद टैक्स लायबिलिटी वुड बी निल. Even if I have no other investments or tax-saving investments, I can file 15H. 15H file करने के लिए the condition is that the tax liability should be nil. Tax liability should be nil. I'm not even saying that the income should be below basic exemption limit or the total income should be below basic exemption limit. No. 15H file करने के लिए the thing is the tax liability is nil. You can file it your 15H. But 15G, which is filed by non-resident senior citizen, उसके लिए the income for which you're filing, it should be below basic exemption limit and not the condition that your total income is below basic exemption limit. ठीक है? Clear? उसके बाद सेक्शन 198 है. सेक्शन 198, this is something which I'm saying since day one, that on income on which TDS is deducted. So suppose 10 lakh से 1 lakh है, 10,194J में TDS कटा, आपको 90,000 मिला. So 90,000 is not your income. The total amount on which tax was deducted is your income, right? So this is what the section clearly says, कि in tax deducted is income equal to receipt, and hence you will show in your return 1 lakh. But this is not true when the TDS is deducted under 194N. We मैंने तब भी बताया था because 194N is not on incomes, it is on withdrawals, and it is necessary, does not mean that whatever you have withdrawn is your income and TDS would be deducted. No. So 194N means this thing does not stand true, and also under tax on non-monetary perquisites. Tax on non-monetary perquisites में क्या होता है? It is not taxable in the hands of employees under 1010cc. If you remember the tax on non-monetary perquisites, right? So that's why उस केस में you will not consider that as income. सेकेंडली, आपको टीडीएस का क्रेडिट मिलेगा, आप उसको यूज कर सकते हो, एंड क्रेडिट खाली उसी को मिलेगा जिसका टीडीएस डिडक्ट हुआ है. ऐसा नहीं है कि मेरे भाई का टीडीएस डिडक्ट हो रहा है तो आई कैन क्लेम इट, until and unless the income is getting clubbed in my hand or it is a case of non-monetary perquisite, because non-monetary perquisites में the TDS credit is allowed to the employee. Clear? उसके अलावा intimation है which you can read, it is pretty easy. Next I'm coming to the deposit part. Time of deduction is very important. Why time of deduction is very important? तभी हमने हर एक section में पढ़ा due or payment, which is earlier or sometimes in payment. Why it is important? Because a person would become compliant only when he knows when he has to do it. If he thinks that he can do it whenever he wants or whenever he wishes, ठीक है तो साल के end में कर लेगी. That attitude would not help achieve the government the intent for which the sections are introduced, right? So time of deduction is very mandatory to be complied with. And time of deduction pay, it is decided when the TDS has to be deposited. पहले डिडक्ट होगा तभी तो वो डिपॉजिट होगा. अगर डिडक्ट ही नहीं किया तो व्हाट विल यू डिपॉजिट, राइट? एक्सेप्ट 192(1)(a, एक्सेप्ट दैट. तो TDS deposit depends upon the time of deduction. So if the month of deduction is between April to February, जब भी TDS कटना चाहे वो पेमेंट पे हो या क्रेडिट पे हो, whatever is the case, if it is falling between April to February, so TDS has to be deposited monthly by 7th of next month. So April का TDS by 7th May का TDS by 7th June, July का TDS by 7th July, so on. December का TDS by 7th January, February का TDS by 7th March. This 1 week you have, okay? But March का TDS by 30th April. क्यों टाइम दिया? प्रीटी ऑब्वियस है, अप्रैल का टाइम, मार्च का टाइम है, बुक क्लोजर का टाइम है. Everyone needs to sort out their entries and it takes time to close their books and understand what bills are due. कभी कभार bills comes late. अब 30th March के अराउंड, लास्ट वीक के अराउंड जो ट्रांजैक्शंस हो रही है उसका इनवॉइस कम लेट, you don't know, and payments obviously has not been done, but you don't know whether we'll be crediting in that financial or not. So considering all those things, for any accountant, March and first week of April or first 20 days of April, or in fact the entire April is a very crucial month because books gets closed. So April, May, June तो सब busy जाते totally. So 30th April तक TDS deposit करना चाहिए for the month of March. But what if you do not deduct on time? What if you do not deposit on time? Interest लगेगा, interest नहीं लगेगा तो you will not, if there is no default consequences, then no one would be. एक तो consequence है कि आपको expenditure का deduction नहीं मिलेगा. Another consequence is default of another consequences of the default is interest. Interest लगेगा on both the scenarios, that is late deduction and late deposit. So both scenario पे interest would be attracted, number one. अब रेट क्या है? लेट डिडक्शन मतलब आपको क्रेडिट पे काटना था, यू फॉरगॉट. सो सपोज suppose you had to deduct the TDS in the month of September. आपने 18 सितंबर को आपको कोई बिल आया, सितंबर 2022 आपको बिल आया 7 लाख का, उस पे आपको 70,000 TDS काटना था. नेचुरली 194J का बिल है, ठीक है, I'm assuming it easy होता है 10% कैलकुलेशन. ठीक है, बिल काटना था, TDS काटना था सितंबर में, बट आपने कब काटा? दिस इज 18 सितंबर. You deducted it only on you when you were making the payment, realized कि oh God, इस पे TDS काटना था, तो you deducted on 1st December. When you were making the payment, तब आपने ड्यू का एंट्री करा, TDS काटा तब. Now, so when the bill came, suppose the bill came from A, so professional expenses account debit to A, पूरा 7 लाख कर दिया. 1st December को when you were making the payment, then you realized A to bank to TDS payable. So this is a wrong entry, right? This is a wrong entry because late deduction. Wrong entry नहीं है. This is a default entry because late deduction है, right? इस केस में क्या इंटरेस्ट लगेगा? Because government wants you to be compliant. Government wants कि आप deduct करो, पैसा टाइम से दो. आप पैसा टाइम से नहीं दे रहे, गवर्नमेंट को प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, सो दे विल टेक यू इंटरेस्ट 1% ऑन फॉर एवरी मंथ और पार्ट ऑफ द मंथ. सो एवरी मंथ और पार्ट ऑफ द मंथ. सो डिफॉल्ट कितने का हुआ? 7 लाख पे नहीं हुआ, 70,000 का हुआ. 70,000 इंटू 1%. अब पर मंथ और पार्ट ऑफ द मंथ कैसे लेंगे? 18 सितंबर से 17 अक्टूबर 1 मंथ, 18 अक्टूबर से 17 नवंबर सेकेंड मंथ, 17 नवंबर से 18 अक्टूबर से 17 नवंबर सेकेंड मंथ, 18 नवंबर से 17 दिसंबर थर्ड मंथ. सो 3 मंथ्स हो गए. 70,000 into 1% into 3, you will get the TDS deduction. जो डिफॉल्ट होगा ये भी आपको डिपॉजिट कराना पड़ेगा, which is 2100. बट इंटीमेशन क्या होता है? जब डिपार्टमेंट ये सब चेक करता है, डिपार्टमेंट अपने अकॉर्डिंग जो कैलकुलेशन करता है वो मंथ वाइज करता है, लाइक सितंबर मंथ पूरा, अक्टूबर मंथ पूरा, नवंबर मंथ पूरा एंड दिसंबर मंथ पूरा. सो दे इंस्टेड ऑफ 3 they take it 4. So both the situation is right. अब वो मंथ कैलेंडर मंथ के हिसाब से ले रहे हैं, दो कहीं पे डिफाइन नहीं है. इंस्टीट्यूट विल गिव यू मार्क्स दोनों पे. अगर if you do it at 4 also they will give you mark, if you do it at 3 also they will give you mark. ठीक है. अब लेट डिपॉजिट. अब लेट डिपॉजिट एक ज्यादा बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. व्हाई? बिकॉज यू डिडक्टेड समवन्स मनी, you did not give it to the government. So उस केस में इंटरेस्ट इज 1.5% on every month or part of the month. $1.5% on every month or part of the month. So इस केस में आप सपोज करो दिसंबर में मैंने डिडक्ट एंट्री तो कर दिया टीडीएस पेबल वाला, बट गवर्नमेंट को मैंने डिपॉजिट कब कराया? से 24 फेब 2023 को. अब यू विल से कि मैम अभी तो आपने बताया टाइम ऑफ डिपॉजिट की दिसंबर का टैक्स 7th of January तक करा सकते हैं, तो इंटरेस्ट का पीरियड शुड स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 7th January to 24th Feb. बट नो, वो केस होता है व्हेन यू आर अ पर्सन हु इज डूइंग एवरीथिंग राइट. बट व्हेन देयर इज अ केस ऑफ लेट डिडक्शन एंड लेट डिपॉजिट, उस केस में the TDS starts from the time of deduction till the time of deposit. यहाँ पे TDS start from the date when the TDS should be deducted till the time it is deducted actually. And late deposit के केस में TDS starts from the time of deduction till the time of deposit. So इस केस में TDS would be 1.5% of 70,000 from 1st December to 24th February. So 3 months का TDS you will deposit here into 1.5%. Clear? And interest students generally waive नहीं होता, penalty still waive हो जाता है, but interest does not get waived. And the department can initiate proceedings anytime if they find अगर resident का TDS नहीं काटा, deposit कराया 7 years from the end of the financial year which should be deducted. अगर non-resident का TDS नहीं काटा, deposit कराया, तो they can initiate the proceeding whenever they want. उसमें कोई time barration है ही नहीं. Okay? उसके बाद deposit कराने के बाद you have to file the return also. Deposit of tax happens in lump sum. सारे डिडक्टर्स, सारे डिडक्टीज का, जितने भी डिडक्टीज का I deducted the TDS, lump sum amount I give it to the government by 7th of the next month and 30th of the April in case of March. ठीक है? Now I will sit and file return every quarter. Every quarter I'll file the return to tell कि कितना TDS कितने परसेंट का था. उल्टा इसका साइड से वो सब करके how much TDS was of what percent. I will give up the PAN also. This PAN के हिसाब से वो merge होगा, right? This person's TDS is, this person TDS belongs to this amount of TDS belongs to this person. It is in this nature. The TDS rate was this. Everything would be given. Time of deduction was it. So पूरा एक बहुत ही tedious process होता है return tedious process होता है TDS return file करने का, because volume of transactions is a lot. So nowadays the softwares are there, a lot of softwares are there which helps you collate the data easily and file the return. But otherwise the volume is a lot. So return has to be filed every quarter. Every quarter means April to June quarter, July to September quarter, October to December quarter, January to March quarter. Dates are 31st of the month falling after that quarter. So 30th June का 31st July हो जाएगा, 30th September का 31st October is the due date, 31st December का 31st January, 31st March का 31st May, because इसका तो 30th April तो is the deposit date, so 31st May. Clear? If you will not file the return, there is a clear penalty of fee. 234E में 200 पर डे का फी लगेगा, नंबर 1. 271H में पेनल्टी आ सकता है which can be from 10,000 to 1 lakh if you do not file the return from even if you do not file the return after 1 year till 1 year period from the date it should be filed. So अगर 31st suppose करो 30th June का which is my 31st July 2022 is the due date. So अगर मैं 31st July 23 तक भी इसका रिटर्न नहीं फाइल करती, so after that a penalty can also be attracted which can go from 10,000 to 1 lakh. Okay, this you must have studied in your penalty section. Clear? उसके बाद हम रिटर्न फाइल करते हैं, इंटीमेशन आता है, कुछ अर्थमेटिकल एक्यूरेसी है, कुछ डेटा मिसमैच है, and then we have to respond to it. As simple as that. This is all about your miscellaneous provisions. अभी 206 AB and AA बचा है, then we will take the break. So उससे हमारे सारे miscellaneous provisions cover हो जाएंगे. But yes, always I told you there are 3 sections. 194 IB, IA, IM. These are those sections in which you do not require a TAN, and उसके लिए इतने compliances भी जरूरी नहीं है. What are the compliances? Every month deposit the TDS, file the return quarterly, then issue the certificate. 194 IA, IB, IM में by one time you can file a challan cum statement in respective form 26QB for IA, 26QC for IB and 26QD for 194M. बस एक फॉर्म होता है जिसमें पेयर का डिटेल है, पे का डिटेल है, ट्रांजैक्शन डिटेल है, सबमिट 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 दोनों का पैन जाएगा, सबमिट, deposit the tax and it would be submitted. Nothing has to be done. So hardly 10 minutes it takes to file the form, to fill the form and file it. And it is a challan cum statement. Challan मतलब tax deposit के लिए, statement मतलब return के लिए. So both the things are done. इसका due date is 30 days from the end of the month of deduction of tax. Deduction of tax in respective sections में we saw 194 IB last month वाला, 194 IA again credit or payment whichever is earlier, 194M also goes same. उस जिस month में deduct किया उसके next month के 30th तक. तो अगर February में deduct किया तो 30th March तक, January में deduct किया तो 2nd March तक. ओके, क्लियर? किसी को कोई भी डाउट है इसमें? Okay, Kaushik, I'll tell non-monetary perquisite, but first I'll cover two provisions, then I'll go to non-monetary perquisites. Mandatory requirement to furnish PAN. अभी तक इतना तो you must have pretty much clear कि deductee का PAN is very important, because otherwise how will the government trace कि किसका TDS आया है, किसके लिए है, who got the income. So PAN, quoting of PAN is very important by deductee, and deductee वैसे if he is a सीधा person, he is not doing any default, he will give you his PAN because he also wants his tax back which you have deducted. He want that credit, so he will give you the PAN definitely. But sometimes the person is very conscious, he does not want his incomes to be disclosed. He is very silent category of person. उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि वो TDS जो deduct हो रहा है वो उसको मिल रहा है या नहीं. He does not want to show his income. He does not want to file his income. He has black income basically. So वो PAN नहीं देता. So to discourage such activities, the government has a general section कि if the deductee does not give the PAN, then the TDS rate would be either the rate or 20%, whichever is higher. Either the rate or 20%, whichever is higher. अब जैसे 194J में अगर प्रोफेशनल रिसीट्स पे TDS काटता है तो पैन नहीं दिया तो मैं 20% काटूंगी. अब बट 194BB है जहाँ पे 30% ऑलरेडी रेट है, तो 30 और 20%, देन पैन नहीं दिया तब भी 30% भी काटूंगी. ठीक है, सो इधर द रेट और 20% विच एवर इज हायर. अब अगर 197A पे पैन नहीं मेंशन तो आई विल अप्लाई दिस पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन ओनली एंड आई विल डिडक्ट द टैक्स एट द higher rate. It is very important that the PAN should be mentioned. But इतना हम भी समझते हैं कि नॉन रेजिडेंट के केस में समटाइम्स पैन नहीं होता, राइट? नॉन रेजिडेंट के केस में पैन नहीं होता, बट गवर्नमेंट कहती है होना चाहिए. बट आफ्टर अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि नहीं, ऑल द सिनेरियोज में नहीं होता, तो गवर्नमेंट ने एक एक्सेप्शन लाया, एक्सेप्शन ऑफ कोटिंग पैन फॉर नॉन रेजिडेंट. सो इफ द पेमेंट इज इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट, रॉयल्टी, फीस फॉर टेक्निकल सर्विसेज, dividend or for transfer of any capital asset subject to deductive furnishing the following details. अगर वो ये सारे जो नॉन रेजिडेंट है हमें अपना नेम, ईमेल आईडी, एड्रेस, टैक्स रेजिडेंट सर्टिफिकेट, वो जो टीआरसी होता है, कुछ ये सब प्रोवाइड कर देंगे, वहां का एड्रेस सब कुछ, तो वी विल नॉट टेक इट एज अ डिफॉल्ट एंड जो सेक्शन के रेट है उसी पे वी विल डिडक्ट द टीडीएस. जो सेक्शन का रेट है उसी पे we will deduct the TDS. But it is not for all non-resident, only non-resident having income from these particular sections. Okay. And they have to provide these things to get themselves the relief of higher deduction. Clear? अब एक और section आया which came couple of years back, I think 2 years back. इसमें but अभी एक प्रोविजन में चेंज है विच यू शुड नो. हाँ, बट बिफोर आई गो टू 206 AB, 206 AA के दो एक्सेप्शंस हैं. वन एक्सेप्शन इज इन केस ऑफ 194, एवरीवन ऑन द स्क्रीन प्लीज. इन केस ऑफ 194O, जहां पे 1% TDS कटता है बाय ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर फॉर मेकिंग द पेमेंट टू ई कॉमर्स पार्टिसिपेंट, वहां पे it would not be rate of 20%, it would be rate of 5%. So higher rate would be 5%. So in case the PAN is not provided, maximum 5%, because already e-commerce participants को जब commission, जब payment मिलता है, it is after commission deduction and after certain things. So why make a hardship on then get 20% काट दो 5%. Similarly, 194Q, जहाँ पे rate is 0.1% on the excess amount, वहां पे भी if the PAN is not furnished, and PAN and Aadhaar both interchangeability, ठीक है, if PAN is not furnished then 5%. So this is the exception. Other thing, 192A में we studied कि अगर PAN नहीं देते तो MMR लगता है, तो वो MMR लगेगा. Okay, clear? Next, हाई रेट ऑफ TDS डिडक्शन. यहाँ पे अमेंडमेंट आया है, पहले 3 years था, 2 years था, अब ये 1 year हो गया है, बस ये अमेंडमेंट है. ये सेक्शन अगेन to introduce this section was to make more and more people file the return, to get more and more information of the income which is flowing in the economy. Again, this is from the perspective of deductee only. So the deductee is a non-filer. I take it as section of a non-filer of income tax return. So if a deductee is a non-filer, यानी वो return नहीं file करते, then the deductor has a right to deduct tax at twice the rate or the section or 5%, whichever is higher. So twice the rate of section or 5%, whichever is higher. Again, for example, 194J में आपको TDS काटना है किसी का, and that person is a non-filer. So twice the rate would be, agar if it is professional fees, 2 of 10% or 5%. So then I will deduct the rate at 20%. Then I will deduct the TDS at 20%. But if it is for technical services, then twice of 2% or 5%, then I will deduct the TDS at 5% under 194J. How would you get to know he's a non-filer? सबसे पहले कौन से साल का non-filer and non-filer ही या कुछ और भी condition? First of all, let me make you very clear. एक non-filer का provision हमने पढ़ा था under section 194N. That provision operates independently. वहां पे वो 2% and 5% वाला limit है, वो वहां पे apply होगा. ठीक है? This provision has two things कि first of all इतना तो clear हुआ, मेरे को TDS काटना होता है एक certain financial year का. So we are talking about financial year 22-23. So इतना तो clear है that we are not talking about non-filing of financial year 22-23 return. Now इससे पहला previous year कौन सा हुआ? 21-22. But suppose, how can I say a person is a non-filer for previous year 21-22 when in financial year 22-23, which is the assessment year 22-23 for previous year 21-22, the return filing due date has still not come. वो कब आएगा? जुलाई में आएगा. So hence the non-filing provisions has to be seen for previous year 2021. When I'm talking about financial year 2022, 22-23, because the return filing due date has already lapsed, which is assessment year 21-22 ka return filing due date has lapsed in financial year 22-23. Hence, non-filer provision would be seen for this year, number one. Number two, along with them being non-filer, उनका TDS, TCS जो उनके पार्ट पे कटा हुआ है for this year, which is previous year 2021, 2020, 2021, should be 50,000 or more. Should be 50,000 and more. तभी वो डिफॉल्टर की लिस्ट में आएंगे अंडर सेक्शन 206 AB for which year? For this year, and they would be called specified person. They would be called specified person. Again, I'll repeat. A person 206 AB would be considered as a non-filer when he has not filed the return for the previous year immediately preceding the financial year in which TDS has to be deducted, and also the return filing due date has expired, and condition है, दोनों condition है, the TDS TCS for that year for which he has not filed the return should be in aggregate should be 50,000 or more. अगर TDS TCS less than 50,000 है उस साल का जिस साल का he has not filed the return, he would not be a non-filer. He would not be a non-filer for 206 AB. Secondly, this list is updated in the month of April itself. वो April में list update हो जाती है. How do you get to know a person is a specified person? If his name is that in that list, he's a specified person. If his name is not in that list, he's not a specified person. Government has a login to check. Utility login है through traces you can check whether the person is a specified person. You just have to enter the PAN number of that person, and you will get to know whether the person is a specified person or not. Okay? If he is a specified person, then you will deduct the TDS at the rate of twice the rate of that particular section or 5%, whichever is higher. Okay? But this section does not apply. Please ये note करना इसका exceptions. This section does not apply when we talk about यहाँ पे और भी amendments है 192, 192A, 194B, 194BB, LBC, 194N, और अभी इसमें amendments के साथ 1 second. इसके साथ साथ 194IA, IB, 194M, 194N, and 194S, which is for virtual digital assets. ये सब भी covered है. Okay. So this has been, yes. So this is there for non-filer. किसी को non-filer में कोई doubt? But sadly, पता है students यहाँ पे एक sad part है. Suppose, take an example in your mind. Suppose I talk about a senior citizen, ठीक है? Very senior citizen है. उनका income is below basic exemption limit. Taxable income is getting below basic exemption limit. But उनका TDS suppose on interest है of 55,000. But as per law, हमने पढ़ा है कि if the income is below basic exemption limit, they do not want to file. They do not have to file the return of income. But उनका TDS पड़ा हुआ है 55,000 का, तो वो भी इसमें cover हो जाते हैं sadly as a non-filer, because कहीं पे relief यहाँ पे कहीं नहीं लिखा हुआ relief is given to the person on whom the filing of TDS return is not there. The provision of TDS return is not applicable. वहाँ पे नहीं लिखा, तो sadly very particular cases, but these cases would also be covered. And this section overrides the 197A also. If you are not a non-filer, you cannot have a benefit under 15G, 15H. And it does not apply, both the section does not apply to non-resident not having PE in India. This section 206 AB does not apply to a non-resident not having PE in India because obviously they might not be filing the return of income. Okay? So that's all about TDS and the miscellaneous provisions. 206 AA AB are very important. अब you will ask, मैम पैन भी नहीं दिया, रिटर्न भी नहीं फाइल करी. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ऐसा बहुत कम होगा, अगर मुझे पैन ही नहीं होगा मैं एबी में देखूंगी नहीं. बट इन केस पैन भी नहीं है, रिटर्न भी नहीं फाइल्ड है, देन डबल ए के अकॉर्डिंग रेट निकाला, एबी के अकॉर्डिंग रेट निकाला. जो हायर रेट होगा वो टीडीएस उस पर डिडक्ट होगा. ठीक है, बट रिमेंबर द एक्सेप्शन टू दीज सेक्शंस. क्लियर? इंटरेस्टिंग है. टीडीएस कैसा लगा? ऑनेस्टली अभी खत्म नहीं हुआ आज क्लास, डोंट वरी. बट हाउ डिड यू लाइक टीडीएस? इंटरेस्टिंग और boring? I know government has made a lot of amendments in past couple of years, but the objective which they are trying to achieve, they have made it pretty clear. We will not keep out of the scope a single penny from tax evasion, and they are trying their level best to cover maximum transactions, to correlate data from different departments, so that they can have full control on the information information of the income which are flowing in the economy. PE cost की PE होता है permanent establishment. This is a concept which you do it in international taxation aspect. Permanent establishment मतलब एक non resident का कुछ एक fixed place of business इंडिया में है. तो general terms में आपको समझाना, fixed place of business may be in a way of branch office or a license office कुछ है, तो वो परमानेंट एस्टेब्लिशमेंट कहला जाता है. बट एवरी DTAA हैज अ डिफरेंट PE का डेफिनेशन. ओके, नॉन मॉनेटरी परक्विजिट को समझने के लिए नॉट जस्ट ओनली वन सेक्शन, you should have a clarity when it comes to section 1010 CC, 192A, 192 subsection 1A and your 40A5 if I'm not wrong. वहां पे बिजनेस में अगर नहीं समझ आया तो यहाँ पे डिफिकल्टी होगा, ध्यान से सुनना. नॉन टैक्स ऑन नॉन मॉनेटरी परक्विजिट्स जनरली हैपन इन केस ऑफ हाई टॉप मैनेजमेंट और एक्सपैट्रिएट एम्प्लॉइज, जहां पे वी गिव देम अ लॉट ऑफ बेनिफिट्स, अ लॉट ऑफ बेनिफिट्स. अब इतने सारे बेनिफिट्स होते हैं ऑफ सच हाई वैल्यू. They have rent-free accommodation, they have chauffeur-driven class cars, they get all facilities free of cost, their food is sponsored, everything is there. अब because of these perquisites, tax amount ज़्यादा हो जाते हैं. अब the moment tax amount ज़्यादा होगा and you will deduct from the monetary salary, they will go come screaming on you कि मैं इतना tax नहीं bear कर सकता. You bear the tax on the non-monetary part. I will bear the tax only on the monetary part. Non-monetary part ka, they say to the employer that you will bear the tax. So the moment the employer is bearing their liability, this perquisite, this becomes perquisite. I am an employer. I am bearing your liability of tax. On the non-monetary perquisite, I am bearing your liability. Again, bearing that liability also becomes a perquisite in your hand. But it is exempt under section 1010 CC, number one. Number two aspect is a perquisite, आपके लिए perquisite हुआ, मेरे लिए expenditure हुआ, right? A perquisite for you and expenditure for me. The moment it becomes expenditure, I cannot claim it because it is exempt in your hand. That means I cannot also claim the benefit of that under section 40A, subclause 5. Then, now coming to the TDS. TDS का क्रेडिट मिलेगा? यस मिलेगा. किसको मिलेगा? एम्प्लॉयर को मिलेगा. हाँ, इट इज लेटर ऑन देयर कंडीशन कि अगर रिफंड मिल रहा है तो वो एम्प्लॉयर को वापस दे देगा, दैट इज सेपरेट थिंग. बट टीडीएस का क्रेडिट किसको मिलेगा? एम्प्लॉय को टीडीएस क्रेडिट मिलेगा एंड वो सेक्शन 192 में ही टीडीएस काटेगा और वहां पे दिखाएगा इवन इफ इट इज बॉर्न बाय दैट पर्सन. सिंपल. section 40, section 10, or 192, all if studied together would give you a clarity on non-monetary purposes. ठीक है, सो एक ब्रेक लेते हैं, ब्रेक के बाद वी विल स्टार्ट टीसीएस, वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट टीसीएस. देयर आर सब फ्यू सबसेक्शंस, 6-7 टाइप्स का कलेक्शन है. We will study it, we will compare it with TDS, and if time allows, we will do advanced tax. ठीक है, so come back after 10 minutes and please be prepared for the class to extend थोड़ा सा. Thank you. So welcome back after the break, everyone. We were discussing the provisions of TDS, miscellaneous provisions all covered, return filing, intimation, delay in filing, 206W, 206AB. किसी को कहीं पे भी doubt है, more than welcome. Any of the provisions you have doubt? Viraj, Koshki. Now, when we move to TCS, I request you to move with a clean slate in your mind because TCS is थोड़ा सा different. First of all, TCS is tax collection at source or tax collected at source. But why this was introduced and TDS was already there? Because TDS may you have seen the liabilities on the person who is the source. Who is the source? यहाँ पे the story changes a bit. So let's see. Yeah. यहाँ पे the person who would be collecting the tax, he would be collecting it from the source. So अभी तक हमने जहां पे प्रोविजन पढ़ा, डिडक्टिंग मतलब डिडक्ट करना है, वो किसके पास पावर होगा? who would be making the payment, right? The power to deduct would be in the hands of the person who has the power to give the payment, right? He who is the source. Now, oppositely, अगर मैं collection perspective से सब कुछ सोचूं, the main liability to collect would be for on the person who has the power to collect the income. Collect कौन करेगा? This other person, right? And source here would give additional tax. Would give additional tax and it would be collected by the other person. So let's take an example. यहाँ पे seller है, he gives goods, buyer say he takes payment. Now along with this consideration, he will collect additional tax. He will collect additional tax, say 1% on the payment on the consideration amount. And now suppose the goods were of 1 lakh. Now, along with 1 lakh, he will collect 1%, and it would be 1 lakh 1,000. Now, the question stays here the same. 1,000, this is the tax amount which he has additionally collected. What is the sale amount for the seller? 1 lakh. What is the purchase amount for the buyer? 1 lakh. This 1,000 is now the liability of the seller, first to collect it, then to deposit it, and then to file the return, and then to issue the certificate. And this 1,000 for the buyer is what he will get as a credit of TCS because he has paid it from his own pocket additional amount to the other party that he will deposit it in my behalf to the government. Okay. So first, this has to be clear. Now, here, porting of PAN would be by whom? The buyer. Buyer has to give his PAN. The person who is giving the TCS would give the PAN. So can I say he is in the role of collector and he is the collectee, right? He is the collector and he is the collectee. Correct? यहाँ पे तक किसी को कोई doubt? Perfect. Now, just like your TDS has various sections, 192 से लेके we are discussing till 194R, 194S, बहुत सारे different independent sections हैं. TCS and यहाँ पे it has one section only, which is section 206C. 206C is the tax collection at source section. इसमें various subsections are there, which covers different types of transactions. Various subsections. So 206C, subsection 1, subsection 1G, subsection 1H, subsection 1F, ऐसे है, ठीक है? But all the sections are subsections of the main section, which is 206C, number 1. Now let's start one by one. यहाँ पे भी we have to see who is the collector, who is the collectee, what is the rate. what is the time of collection, and any threshold exemption if there is. ठीक है, प्रोसीड करें. एकदम क्लीन सेट से टीसीएस क्लियर हुआ, नॉट टीसीएस क्लियर हुआ, द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ टीसीएस क्लियर हुआ. ठीक है. Now, first section, which is subsection is 206C, subsection 1, talks about certain goods. This is the oldest TCS collection. यहाँ पे this section again was introduced to cover from, अब यहाँ पे sellers high companies होती है, big companies होती हैं, buyers are at a very low level, जो मे बी अपना रिटर्न नहीं फाइल करते होंगे. So to get the information of such things, the provision of TCS was taken. So on sale of certain goods. What types of goods are covered? Only the goods which you can see on the screen. One is alcoholic liquor. Another is tendu leaves. I'll come to the rate. What is tendu leaves? BD, you know, BD ka leaves are called tendu leaves. Timber or any forest leaves, category 1. Okay, forest produced. Timber or forest produced scraps and mineral oils. ठीक है, सिर्फ ये प्रोडक्ट्स आएंगे, स्क्रैप, मिनरल ऑयल्स, alcoholic liquor, tendu leaves, and timber of forest produce. So the moment you see this in question, immediately TCS ka provision should hit in your mind. Okay, what are the rates of collection? These are the rates of collection. 1% on if the goods which are sold are alcoholic liquor, 5% when they are tendu leaves, 2.5% when they are timber or forest produce, 1% if scrap, and 1% if mineral, which are in the form of coal or lignite or iron ore. Okay, 1%, 5%, 5%, 1%, 5%, 2.5%, 1%, and 1%. सबसे पहले अभी what is scrap, timber and forest produce, ये तो clear हो गया. What is scrap? Scrap क्या होता है? Scrap here means first which has come as a result of some manufacturing or some mechanical work and which cannot be used as it. तो शिप खराब हो गई, उससे कुछ निकल के टूट के आया, अब उसको मैं एज इट इज तो यूज नहीं कर सकती, एज अ शिप उसको दोबारा यूज नहीं कर सकती, राइट? सो दैट वुड बी अ स्क्रैप. मेटल स्क्रैप्स जनरली कम हियर, बट पेपर पैकिंग मटेरियल है वो अनयूज हो गया, वो उसको रिसाइकिल करके फिर से पेपर हो सकता है, या उसको एज सच भी एज अ पेपर कहीं और भी यूज कर सकती हूँ. सो पेपर का रद्दी वुड नॉट बी अ स्क्रैप, उस पे द टीसीएस प्रोविजंस वुड नॉट बी एप्लीकेबल. बट या मेटल के कार का खराब हो गया, उसको ब्रेक डाउन करके कुछ अमाउंट निकला, दैट इज स्क्रैप, एंड वो जब सेल हो रहा होगा उस पे टीसीएस वुड बी कलेक्टेड. बट paper ka I give an example, that would not be scrap. Clear? Another thing which you have to remember in TCS, the one major difference between TDS TCS is TDS is on the value of the goods or services, that is it is before the GST amount, it is before the GST amount. But TCS mostly you will see is on the consideration, that means it would be after the GST amount. So suppose 1 lakh का good पे 18% GST है, तो 1,18,000 के बाद 1% they will collect extra. बहुत सारे bills में if you have seen, seller का जो invoice होता है, tax invoice, उसमें description of goods, freight, then GST, then TCS, then total value to be recovered आता है. Okay, plus 1% TCS वहां पे it would be written. And you as a buyer give the entire amount including GST. So GST का इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा, TCS का इनकम टैक्स में टैक्स क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा. ठीक है, क्लियर? Another important thing यहाँ पे आता है, who is the collector मैम and who is the collected, right? हर एक सेक्शन का हम पढ़ेंगे, बुक में डिफरेंट दिया हुआ है, we will study for every section. यहाँ पे collector का main responsibility of compliances, he has to collect, he has to have TAN number, then he has to collect tax, then he has to deposit the tax, then he has to file the return, यहाँ पे TCS return file होगा, then he has to issue the certificate. So that means compliances बहुत ज्यादा है. So any person except we, same individual and HUF not having the respected turnovers in the preceding years. चार, ठीक है. Now who would be the collectee? Collectee can be any person other than central government, state government, public sector undertakings, high commission, clubs, not party clubs, associations होती हैं जो clubs का, वो नहीं होंगे other than this. Also, any person who has taken this for self or personal consumption, तो उनसे भी you will not collect the tax. So that's why you must be thinking कि liquor की खरीदने पे तो we have never given the tax. No one has collected TCS from us. There are excise and VAT, etc. thing, but no one has recovered TCS because you are, if you are taking it for retail purpose, which is a personal consumption, TCS would not be collected to you from you on such goods. Time of collection, वहां पे होता था credit or payment, whichever is earlier, यहाँ पे due or receive, whichever is earlier. आपको एडवांस मिल गया तो एडवांस के टाइम पे यू हैव टू कलेक्ट द टीडीएस. बिल पहले इशू करा तो ड्यू मतलब डेबिट और रिसीव व्हिचएवर इज अर्लियर. बिल आपने पहले इशू करा तो बिल के टाइम पे यू विल कलेक्ट द टीसीएस. ओके, क्लियर? एनी डाउट? सो पर्सनल कंजम्पशन आर नॉट एक्सक्लूडेड. उसके अलावा देयर इज वन एक्सेप्शन हियर. If a person comes and gives you a declaration that I will use these products for further manufacturing, declaration दिया फॉर्म 27C में, ठीक है, for further manufacturing or production of articles, and he gives you the PAN number, and he gives you the PAN number. So if a buyer comes, suppose you are into alcohol, I am a buyer of this alcohol and I will make sanitizers. Now sanitizers के लिए alcohol is थोड़ा सा requirement, ठीक है. I take the goods from you, which is alcohol. You will not collect the TCS from me if I give you a declaration in form 27C with my PAN number that I will use this alcohol strictly for manufacturing. If I would have been a trader, मैं एक retail trader होता, I would have taken alcohol from you to sell it further, then you would have collected TCS from me. But since I'm using it for further manufacturing or production of articles or things and give you a declaration, then you will not collect TCS. Okay, and you will use this form and you will show it in the return, etc. etc. But एक बारी अब यहाँ पे हम प्रोविजन को मिक्स करते हैं. बायर ने डेक्लेरेशन दे दिया, वो टीसीएस नहीं कलेक्ट करेगा, दैट इज क्लियर. बट रिमेंबर अभी हमने थोड़े टाइम पहले 194 पढ़ा था, where the buyer deducts the TDS. Now we have to be smart enough to reconcile and relate it, where buyer will deduct the TDS if the value of the goods purchased is more than 50 lakhs, right? अगर वो वाला provision यहाँ hit हो रहा है, even if the TCS is not required to be collected, but if the buyer has to deduct the TDS, he would deduct the TDS. ठीक है. एक प्रोविजन में एग्जेम्पशन की वजह से सेकंड प्रोविजन डज नॉट गो इनवैलिड, देन 194Q में ही विल. वो कब होगा? इफ द बायर इज हैविंग इन द प्रीसीडिंग ईयर टर्नओवर ऑफ मोर देन 10 crores. ठीक है, ये वाला पार्ट क्लियर हुआ. तो दिस इज अबाउट 206C सबसेक्शन 1. कॉस्ट की टीसीएस में जीएसटी के साथ टीसीएस कलेक्ट होगा 1 लाख, जस्ट आई गिव एन एग्जांपल, बट टीडीएस में टीडीएस डिडक्ट होगा 1 लाख पे, और यहाँ पे 1,18,000 पे 1% कलेक्ट होगा. क्लियर? परफेक्ट. चले आगे. नेक्स्ट इज सेक्शन टू 2061C. ये बहुत कम आता है एग्जाम्स में, बट ओके. सो क्या होता है, these are the things where parking lots, toll plaza, minor query, generally you take the lease rights for them. You take the lease rights from them. Parking lot, toll plaza, or minor query. You take the lease rights for them from the authority who has the power to lease you. So the person who gives you the lease right is called licensee. Who grants you the licensor or lessor, and the person who gets the right is licensee और लेसिंग. अब एक पार्किंग लॉट का एग्जांपल लेते हैं. जनरली जो ओपन स्पेस होता है इट इज फॉर गवर्नमेंट, राइट? सो दे ग्रांट यू द राइट, दे आर गिविंग यू दिस पार्किंग लॉट, यू गिव देम द फीस फॉर इट, एंड देन यू कलेक्ट पार्किंग लॉट्स में जो जो एंट्रीज आती है, whatever would come, whatever car would come, whatever money you collect is yours. Okay, but ये राइट ग्रांट होता है on good number of years basis. So who would make the payment? The licensee would make the payment to the licensor for that right, for that grant of the use or the right of the interest which they are given in that parking lot, toll plaza, or minor query. So you will pay that. So along with this right ka paisa, they will collect TCS. They will collect TCS at the rate of 2%. They will collect the TCS at the rate of 2%. Again, यहाँ पे भी at the time of debit or receiving, whichever is earlier. So who's the collector? The licensor or the lessor. Who's the collectee? The licensee or the lessee. And the rate is 2%. Okay, यहाँ पे बस एक exception है, that they will not collect it. They will not collect TCS from a lessee who is a PSU, a public sector undertaking. Say they will not collect the TCS. Okay, बहुत कम आता है ये section generally, but fine. Another section, very interesting section and very common sections. If you have purchased a car, ध्यान से सुनना ये वाला section 2061 है. Another section of collecting the TCS, collection on motor vehicle. अब मोटर व्हीकल में क्या होता है, दो टाइप का सेल्स होता है. वन इज B2B, which is from manufacturer to wholesaler, and one is B2C, which is from manufacturer or to retailer, or from wholesaler to the retailer to the final consumer. ठीक है, B2B जब हो रहा है, that is from manufacturer to car dealer या distributor or wholesale person, then no TCS is there. No TCS is there. But when it is B2C, that is from manufacturer either to directly to customer or from dealers to customer, then TCS is attracted under section 206C subsection 1F. What is the rate of TCS and when it is attracted? The TCS rate is simple, 1%. The TCS rate is 1% if the motor vehicle which we are talking about, the motor vehicle value exceeds The consideration for motor vehicle exceeds 10 lakhs. So यहाँ पे word ज़्यादा consideration use होता है. The consideration for motor vehicle exceeds 10 lakh. Now, here TCS is collected at the time of receipt of consideration. At the time of receiving of consideration. So suppose I am a dealer, you are the person who have come to purchase car, which is your favorite car. I think Creta le lete, okay? So you came to purchase Creta. I am a authorized dealer. 15 lakhs का, ठीक है? I am assuming I am very bad when it comes to car. 15 lakhs का value है. आपने मुझे 3 lakhs दिया at the time of booking, remaining there at the time of delivery. So 3 lakhs, pay 1% I will collect at the time of booking. 12 lakhs I will collect 1% at the time of delivery. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आता है कि कार की चीज में इतने सारे कंपोनेंट्स होते हैं. There is a component of GST, obviously, other taxes, road taxes, etc., etc., RTO taxes, all of that. तो कौन से अमाउंट पे मैम TCS कलेक्ट होगा? So generally it is on the consideration amount, which is including GST, because I just told you, which is including GST, but at the same time, RTO जो वहां के रीजनल टैक्स ऑफिस, रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट ऑफिसेस को टैक्स जाता है उस अमाउंट पे नहीं, उस अमाउंट को एक्सक्लूड करके पूरा कंसिडरेशन जो जा रहा है, including the taxes, including accessories amount, everything, उस पे 1% the tax would be collected. Only if the value exceeds 10 lakh. Only if the car or the motor value exceeds 10 lakh. So suppose मैं आज एक डीलर के पास गई. First day I purchased a Swift which was of say 7 lakhs. Then after 6 months again I purchased say WagonR from the same dealer. दो होगा नहीं, अलग अलग companies हैं, but no, let's assume from the same dealer. Then I purchased another car, say of 9 lakhs. So whether they will deduct the whether they will collect the tax, because per dealer मेरा total has crossed 10 lakhs. Whether they will collect it, no. This has to be taken on each consideration sale or each individual sale of motor vehicle. So अगर एक motor vehicle का consideration process 10 lakh, they will collect the tax. दूसरे का is not crossing 10 lakh, they will not collect the tax. So individually they have to see whether it is crossing 10 lakhs or not. But interestingly, अब ऐसे 10 lakhs करके suppose करो 50 लाख से ज्यादा हो जाता है. सपोज करो 50 लाख से ज्यादा हो जाता है, तो एक प्रोविजन हम पढ़ेंगे आगे, सेक्शन 206C1H, where is the seller will collect tax if the consideration given to them is 50 lakhs or more in an year, provided the seller has the turnover in the preceding years of more than 10 crore. तो वहां पे they might collect tax अगर 50 लाख से ज्यादा का ट्रांजैक्शन हो जाता है इन इंडिविजुअल कार कैटेगरी. बट अगर सिंगल कार इज कंसिडरेशन इज लेस देन 10 lakhs, नो TCS. हर एक मोड पे देखेंगे. ओके, क्लियर? सो हु वुड बी द कलेक्टर हियर? Who would be the collector? The manufacturer or the authorized dealer. But any person, again, collector would be the seller first of all. Any person except that individual HF wala. Okay. मैम रीसेल पे भी आएगा? यस, रीसेल पे भी आएगा. रीसेल पे क्या इशू है? रीसेल पे भी अगर मोटर व्हीकल सेल कंसिडरेशन 10 लाख से ज्यादा है तो रीसेल पे भी आएगा. अगर उनका इंडिविजुअल एचएफ का लास्ट ईयर टर्नओवर इज लेस देन 1 crore in case of business, less than 50 lakhs in case of profession, they will not collect the TCS, but otherwise they will collect the TCS. Buyer, who would be the buyer? Buyer can be any person except, again, central government, state government, embassies, consultants, legal consultants, high commission, local authorities, PSUs who are engaged in the business of carrying of passengers. वो नहीं आएंगे, and obviously dealer of motor vehicles नहीं आएंगे, which I told you B2B. These people will not come, otherwise everyone would be everyone would attract TCS if the sale consideration of a motor vehicle exceeds 10 lakh. एक बार go through करो इस provision को, कुछ doubt है please ask. 206C 1, 1C and 1F में if there's any doubt please ask. And now try to relate it section by section. Note the points इसमें. First is it should be at the time of receiving the consideration, the TCS has to be collected. Now you will say कि ma'am loan generally तो loan के tag चले जाते हैं, तो they will add it in the amount of loan. Go tomorrow. Not, I'm not saying if you're free. Whenever you get time, if you go to any dealer, you will get the quotation from them. वहाँ पे you will see कि TCS is already added if the car value, not car value, the consideration is more than 10 lakhs. चलें आगे, clear? Perfect. 1 second. Okay. Next is 206C1G. एक तो when budget comes for another year, then things get changed थोड़ा सा. हाँ. Section 206C1G. पहले we will do clause A, then we will do clause B. आपकी बुक में अलग अलग नहीं है, we will do अलग अलग. Okay, so section 206C, subsection 1G, clause A. Clause A talks about LRS. LHS नहीं, LRS, liberalized remittance scheme. India के बाहर, if you have to send any remittance, you have to follow the guidelines which are under FEMA, and FEMA का generally guidelines are as per RBI. Okay, so you have to follow those guidelines. ऐसा नहीं है we can send X amount of money. No, liberalized remittance scheme मतलब without any special RBI approval, we have certain transactions and certain limit, जिस limit के अंदर and उन transactions के according we can send money abroad. We can remit the money abroad. The limit is 250,000 USD, which is a lot, somewhere close to 2.5 crores, which is a lot amount. Okay, so 250,000 USD can be sent in a financial year abroad on certain transactions. Like it can be, and they are all very common transactions, like for purchase of property, for purchase of shares, for sending living expenses to your relatives outside India, for getting it converted for monetary exchange, all of them, for traveling purpose, all of this comes under LRS. Okay. अब government wants to ensure कि एक person है who is remitting abroad, who is having certain degree of he must be having certain degree of income. So let's gather their information. So what they did, they said, ध्यान से सुनना please. If the amount which you are remitting outside India is out of a loan, people who go and study abroad, generally take education loan, and then that amount is remitted outside India. Okay, out of a loan taken from a bank or a financial institution which is mentioned as per ATE. Okay, you are taking the amount, that amount is remitted, which is the loan amount. Okay, then the TCS would be collected, would be 0.5%. 0.5% if the amount is remitted out of that loan. Now, first of all, remittance कौन करेगा? मैं खुद तो नहीं करूंगी, मैं बैंक को इंस्ट्रक्ट करूंगी या कोई ऑथराइज्ड डीलर को इंस्ट्रक्ट करूंगी. ऑथराइज्ड डीलर्स लाइक मनी एक्सचेंजर्स जो होते हैं, राइट? आई कैन नॉट remit myself. Either I will go with the money and I will go to a authorized dealer like Western Union. I will go to them and I will take this cash and remit this amount in foreign person's bank account, right? Or I will direct my bank to remit. Okay. So authorized dealer remit करेंगे. So when they will remit, they will collect 0.5% from me as TCS if I'm remitting the loan amount, and 0.5% in excess of 7 lakhs. In excess of 7 lakhs. Okay. Or if I'm not remitting out of the loan, I'm remitting general living expenses to my brother who stays abroad, then other than loan remittance, what will happen? It would be 5%. They will collect TCS of 5% in excess of 7 lakhs. So the limit is 7 lakhs. But in excess amount. So suppose I am remitting, and this is a per financial limit. Suppose I am remitting 5 lakhs rupees to my brother who stays abroad. He is studying abroad. उसके education के लिए I'm remitting 5 lakhs rupees. So they will not collect TCS. The moment I remit under LRS में वहां पे पता चल जाएगा कि मैंने कितना remit करा है during the year. ठीक है? The moment I remit more than 7 lakhs, suppose I have remitted 10 lakhs. So 3 lakh pay, 5% they will collect from me and then the other amount would be remitted. अब इसमें ना ऑनेस्टली स्टूडेंट्स आपके लिए इट इज नॉट रेलिवेंट 15,000 दे विल कलेक्ट आपके लिए इट इज नॉट रेलिवेंट बट दिस ईयर फाइनेंस एक्ट 2023 हैज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड सच I'll say aggressive rate in this particular section that it might change the people's thought of remitting in future and it would be a very big setback for the people who want to remit to their relatives or to their children studying abroad. Okay, but for you, you don't have to worry about that. You have to remember these limits. 0.5% in excess of 7 lakh or 5% in excess of 7 lakh. This is when I'm remitting under the liberalized remittance scheme. क्योंकि अगर मेरे को 2,50,000 USD डॉलर से ज्यादा रेमिट करना है, I have to go to first RBI, get approvals, submit documents, then other things happen, and उसमें भी obviously TCS लेंगे. But यहाँ पे it's all under liberalized remittance scheme where without RBI approvals, for certain specified transactions, I can send the money abroad, and the money abroad can be either sent through authorized dealers or through banks. And they, while remitting this amount, will collect additional tax from me on the excess of 7 lakhs. Clear? When will they collect? At the time of debit or receiving, whichever is earlier. TCS is the authorized, the collector would be the authorized dealer, the collective would be the person who is remitting it. Except exception is called if an amount is remitted by a non-resident who does not have a permanent establishment in India, then he would not be covered under 2061G clause A. And obviously you will not collect TCS from central government, state government, embassies, high commission, local authorities. ठीक है? LRS वाला पार्ट क्लियर हुआ? उसमें भी क्लॉज बी में भी विल कम. Rate is 0.5% and 5%. Possibly there's no 1% here. Next, इसमें B part आता है is overseas store packages. Overseas store packages. 206C subsection 1G clause B. Overseas tour packages. So if I'm making a payment to any seller of overseas tour package, sometimes when you go abroad, and first of all, this is only on overseas tour packages, not on domestic tour packages. Okay. So this section is on overseas tour packages. When you go abroad, you have a tendency to take a package whereby they will give you flights, hotels, personal transfers, meal, वगैरह सब कुछ होगा. You only thing you have to do is you have to go there. That's it. Everything would be taken care of. Their itinerary would be planned. Everything would be done. ठीक है? So over एक package होते हैं which you purchase. So इसमें if you are making a payment for the overseas tour package, there is no limit. They will collect the person who is the seller of these packages. यानी जो आपका booking करेंगे package. I'm talking about the term again and again package. They will collect TCS at the rate of 5%. At the rate of 5%. 5% and full package. ऐसा नहीं है only flights per booking they will collect 5% or only hotel bookings are done they will collect 5%. No, it's an entire offering in the form of package. Then they will collect total 5%. And yes, you can say rightly that people to exempt themselves from paying TCS or from giving extra amount of TCS, they do not go for package, they go for individual bookings. So yes, you can say that. Okay, the rate is 5%. Seller कौन होगा, collector कौन होगा, seller of the overseas package. Collector कौन होगा, buyer of the overseas package. Again यहाँ पे भी state government, central government, local authorities, high commission, all of these would not come. ठीक है, इधर यहाँ पे there is no limit. आप 1 lakh का package book करोगे, they will collect 5% from. Consideration का 5% simple. Any doubt? 206C, 206C subsection 1G has two parts. One is LRS, another is overseas tour package. LRS में भी there are two remittances. One is from the loan, another is general remittance other than loan. Loan pay if you're remitting, loan amount if you're remitting, 0.5%. Other than loan amount you're remitting, 5% in excess of 7 lakhs. And TCS भी वो 7 lakhs के ऊपर वाले amount भी collect करेगी. 7 lakh तक का remittance है, no TCS. 206C1G clause B, overseas tour packages पे flat rate 5%. ठीक है. Out of loan costly, the loan which is your ATE वाला loan, education loan. क्योंकि है ना बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स बाहर पढ़ने जाते हैं, they take loan and then they go outside, वो वाला. Next and the last and the most important section under the TCS part is 206C clause 1H. 206C subsection 1H. Sale of goods exceeding रुपीज 50 lakhs. अब कहोगे मैम ये सेम कुछ सुना हुआ लग रहा है 194Q में. Yes, you were saying purchase of goods exceeding 50 lakhs. First of all, both are on goods. Correct. We will do the comparison. But first, let's understand 206C subsection 1H. First of all, पहले ये section आया था, then 194Q happened. Okay. Now, this section is on sale of goods. यहाँ पे obviously collector would be seller. And collector would be the buyer. ये भी clear है. But who seller, who buyer? Seller who in the preceding, who in the preceding year had a turnover of more than 10 crore. Turnover of more than 10 crore in the preceding year. Okay, and यहाँ पे कब collection trigger होगा? When the consideration exceeds 50 lakhs. When the consideration exceeds 50 lakhs. I've used the word consideration. When you have to collect the tax at the time of this receipt. When the consideration is received, what is the rate? Here the rate is of 0.1% on excess of 50 lakhs. So if per buyer has received the consideration of more than 50 lakhs during the financial year, I will collect a 0.1% on the excess amount of 50 lakhs. Here is also no tax will be collected from central government, state government, local authorities, and vessels or any person importing the goods to India. ठीक है, और many persons is importing the goods to India. Basically, what tax is export for goods? also यहाँ पे no tax in respect of export goods and no tax in respect of persons importing the goods to India. Now who will collect the again any person जिसके ऊपर consideration is more than 50 lakhs during the year. Clear? इसके साथ यहाँ पे exceptions आते हैं. What are the exceptions? If 2066 C subsection 1 applies, which is mainly forest वाला scrap वाला, अगर वो apply हो गया तो 206 C 1H would not apply. If 206 C 1F is applied, already seller, you are the buyer, I am the seller, I have already collected 1H TDS, and I will not collect TCS again under 1H. हाँ, but 1H में नहीं लगा because of each transaction being less than 10 lakhs, but aggregate 50 lakhs हो गया तो 1H would be applied. 206 C 1G total package में भी same covered हो जाएगा. 194 Q. अब 194 Q क्या कहते हैं? 194 Q में if the buyer has deducted the TDS, I'll take an example also. The buyer has deducted the TDS, the seller will not collect the TDS. But if the buyer forgot to deduct the TDS, then the seller will collect the TDS. If the buyer forgot to deduct the TDS, then seller will collect the TDS. And so the situation would only happen when both in the preceding financial year have a turnover of more than 10 crore. Okay, then 194O. If 194 got applied, then TCS provisions would not. So, अगर e-commerce operator has already deducted the tax of e-commerce participant under section 194O, then now e-commerce participant will not collect TCS under 206C subsection 1H. But यहाँ पे remember there are strict guidelines. Listen carefully. If यहाँ पे क्या था? If 194 Q में नहीं काटा, but seller ने collect कर दिया, तो everyone is at the correct place. But 194 O has a higher rate, a much higher rate of 1% and 5%. 1% has a or yes, otherwise क्या 0.1%. So 1% का rate in comparison to 0.1% is like 10 times, right? अगर यहाँ पे you will not say escaping as an e-commerce operator, it will not say कि participant had collected the TCS, so I will not deduct it. No, the deductor has to deduct it and collector would not collect it. दोनों में difference क्या है? Q and O में I will repeat again. Q में क्या है? If deductor forgets, collector can collect and deductor would not be at default. Okay, but 194 O में if the deductor forgets and collector collects, he cannot say कि I am free of my liability because I forgotten the TCS has been collected, so chill out. No, since the rate is higher there, the deductor has to deduct the TDS and collector does not have to collect the TCS on the transactions which are covered under 194O. Clear? दोनों में difference ये है, please ध्यान से समझ. Okay? Clear? So now if I compare it with 194Q, I'll compare this entire section with 194Q. So what is the difference? यहाँ पे liability is for the seller. यहाँ पे liability is of the buyer having turnover more than 10 crore. यहाँ पे consideration exceeds 50 lakhs including GST. यहाँ पे if the goods value during the year exceeds purchase during the year exceeds 50 lakhs. You can make this table. यहाँ पे TCS has to be collected at the time of receipt. यहाँ पे TDS has to be deducted at the time of credit or payment, whichever is earlier. यहाँ पे भी 0.1% on excess of 50 lakhs. So this is the comparison. Now let's take an example. फर्स्ट केस लेते हैं. यहाँ पे टर्नओवर ऑफ सेलर करते हैं. यहाँ पे टर्नओवर ऑफ बायर. ओके. यहाँ पे सेल ऑफ गुड्स. यहाँ पे सेल कंसिडरेशन. लाइबिलिटी. Tax amount. Okay. Tax to be deducted or collected. Let's see. I'll give you time to note. Please focus on the screen first. Okay. First scenario लेते हैं जहाँ पे turnover of seller is 12 lakhs. Turnover of buyer is ये preceding years में. Okay. 12 crores and 6 crores. Sale of goods is say 2 crores. Okay. Sale consideration paid during the year is 1 crore. ठीक है. सबसे पहले किसका लाइबिलिटी होगा? बाय सीइंग दिस फर्स्ट यू विल सी कि 50 लाख से ज्यादा हो रहा है. देखते हैं हु इज हैविंग द हायर टर्नओवर. द सेलर इज हैविंग द हायर टर्नओवर. तो दिस इज अ केस ऑफ टीसीएस. This is a case of TCS and it will happen at 0.1% of the value exceeding 50 lakhs. अब वो 1.5 करोड़ होगा या 50 lakhs होगा? 50 lakhs होगा. So 0.1% of 50 lakhs, which is 5,000. ये समझ आया? Perfect. Now let's take another scenario. Where seller turnover in the preceding year is 5 crore. Buyer turnover in the preceding year is 11 crores. Same लेते हैं. 2 crore का सेल हुआ. 1 crore का consideration मिला. Now whose liability? Buyer liability to deduct TDS and that too under 194Q. That too under 194Q at 1.1% of 2 crores at 0.1% of the amount exceeding 50 lakhs and वो basically 1.5 crore, which is 15,000. ठीक है. Next example where now the confusion happens. इनका टर्नओवर 11 करोड़, इनका टर्नओवर 12 करोड़, बायर का सेलर का. ठीक है. यहाँ पे सेल ऑफ गुड्स हैपेंस ऑफ 2-1 ही कर लेते हैं. ठीक है. अब किसका प्राइमा फेसी किसका लाइबिलिटी है? दोनों का टर्नओवर एक्सीड हो रहा है तो दोनों प्रोविजंस लग रहे हैं. बट फर्स्ट लाइबिलिटी, फर्स्ट राइट और फर्स्ट ऑब्लिगेशन वुड बी ऑलवेज ऑन दी बायर. वुड ऑलवेज बी ऑन दी बायर. If buyer forgets or if buyer did not deduct, then collector can. Okay. यहाँ पे 0.1% of again 1.5 crores हो जाएगा, which would be 15,000. So you saw the difference here. यहाँ पे 0.1% of 50 lakhs हो रहे हैं when seller responsibility comes, because that depends upon the consideration. But when buyer's responsibility or liability comes, that depends upon the actual sale actual sale value or the actual transaction of goods during the year. क्लियर हुआ? दिस इज एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट. ठीक है, इस एग्जाम्पल से आई थिंक द कंपैरिजन ऑफ बोथ द सेक्शंस वुड बी प्रीटी क्लियर, राइट? बट हाँ, 194O वाला प्रोविजन प्लीज याद रखना. 194O में द डिडक्टर कैन नॉट से कि TCS हैज बीन कलेक्टेड, so I am free from the responsibility. He has to deduct it. आई थिंक इसमें एक नोटिफिकेशन से एयरलाइन एयर इंडिया का भी इसमें आपको दिया है या नहीं, लेट मी सी. ओके, परफेक्ट, नोट कर लिया. चलो, नाउ certain clarifications are there when it comes to section 2060(1)(h), which have been given this year only. First clarification comes, एक 194Q वाला आपको समझा दिया, एप्लीकेबिलिटी 194O वाला भी समझा दिया. या तो गाइडलाइन विच हैज बीन इशूड क्लियरली सेज जस्ट लाइक एक्सचेंजेस पे क्योंकि इतनी सारी ट्रांजैक्शंस होती हैं एंड it is just happening from one settlement to another and the buyer and the seller is difficult to identify, 206C(1)(h) would not be applicable on the volume of the transaction happening through exchange, and so is 194Q and so is 194O. ये exchange वाला तीनों में है. Okay, then sale of motor vehicle wala, we already told that if sale of motor vehicle pe 2061F is not getting applied because of each transaction being less than 10 lakhs, each transaction of purchase of car, the consideration is less than 10 lakhs. But if in aggregate it crosses 50 lakhs, then 206C(1)(h) would be definitely be applicable. Then sales return discount, indirect taxes हुआ but आपने collect कर लिया tax, उसको adjust नहीं करोगे. The person will get the credit, he has to sit back and relax. Okay. Another is no TCS would be collected if fuel is supplied to non-resident airlines at the airport of India. This is another simple clarification. Okay, so all of these are the CBDT guidelines which we discussed. So this is all about the TCA from the perspective of different types of transactions. यहाँ पे now since we have discussed about the timeline. So यहाँ पे timelines discuss करना would be much easier. बहुत सिंपल है. TCS भी एवरी मंथ के 7th तक यू हैव टू डिपॉजिट. यहाँ पे मार्च का देर इज नो डिफरेंट टाइमलाइन, वहां पे तो देर इज 30th April, बट TCS में नो डिफरेंट टाइमलाइन. 7th of April मीन 7th of April. इसका रिटर्न इज फाइल्ड अंडर 27EQ. यहाँ पे रिमेंबर वन थिंग, for every quarter the TCS return would be filed, but the date would be 15th of the next quarter. So 31st April to June quarter, 15th of July, then quarter ending in September, 15th October, then quarter ending in December, 15th January, and then quarter ending in March It would be 15th May. ठीक है, प्लीज रिमेंबर डिफॉल्ट का दोनों में पेनल्टी सेम है, 200 पर डे फॉर ईच डिफॉल्ट. ठीक है, क्लियर. जैसे ही वहां पे भी पैन कलेक्ट डिडक्टर का वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, डिडक्टी का पैन वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, हियर कलेक्टी का पैन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सेम प्रोविजंस अप्लाई एज 20, यहाँ पे जो हमारा सेम है एकदम, जैसे 206 AA एंड 206 AB था इन केस ऑफ TDS, यहाँ पे इन केस ऑफ TCS इट इज 206 CC एंड CCA. ठीक है, यहाँ पे अगर पैन नहीं होगा, एंड दिस इज फॉर नॉन फाइलर, सेम नॉन फाइलर का लास्ट ईयर का रिटर्न फॉर विच द टाइम पीरियड हैज बीन लैप्स्ड एंड द TDS TCS इज एग्रीगेट of 50,000, the higher rate would apply. But यहाँ पे the rate is not 20%, यहाँ पे the rate is rate or 5% whichever is higher, and यहाँ पे भी rate or 5% whichever is higher. Default में rate of 5% whichever is higher. So if no PAN is given to you, you will deduct the you will collect the TCS at the rate of 5% or the rate whichever is higher. बस एक exception है यहाँ पे 206C1H में the TCS would be collected would be at the max 1% rate, because 5% of such a high amount would be much higher. ठीक है, also दोनों के cases में non resident who does not have PE would not be applicable. Sorry, twice the rate or 5%, twice the rate or 5%. ठीक है, बाकी सारे प्रोविजन सेम है, TCS के मिसलेनियस प्रोविजन इससे ज्यादा आएंगे नहीं. ऑल ऑफ थिंग्स आर अदर थिंग्स आर सेम. प्लीज लेट मी नो इफ देयर इज एनी डाउट एंड टेक 1 minute का ब्रीदर. TDS TCS क्लियर. पक्का से किसी को कोई भी डाउट है किसी भी प्रोविजन पे, टेक योर टाइम एंड आस्क. See, always I have had a philosophy. Whatever you do that your best instead of covering all the thing. Do at least 90%, but do it with best instead of 100% and giving it half attempt. And that does not mean that do only 1%. Do the maximum you can, but in the best possible manner. Okay. Now we move on to advanced tax provisions. Now, first of all, abhi tak TDS TCS was all about the liability of other person of a person other than the assessee. Credit usko assessee ko milta tha, who would have been a deductee or the collectee, but the liability was of the deductor or the collector to deposit it, and the credit was given to the deductee or the collectee, which he can use it while filing the return. If the tax collected or deducted are more than the tax which is payable, he will get the refund. Advance tax is another way for the government to get the tax. Abhi bhi, kyunki even after making so many amendments, still TDS and TCS might not cover many transactions, right? Many, बहुत सारी transactions हो सकती हैं which are yet not covered. So वहां पे advance tax comes into picture. This is the liability of the assessee himself. The assessee himself has to take care of it. what he has to do is advance, matlab in advance, that means in the previous year itself. I told you in the first class, the liability of the previous year or the income of the previous year has to be assessed in the assessment year. And generally, people have a tendency to pay tax then and there. But with advance tax being in picture, the person has to pay the tax in advance in the previous year itself. That is when he's earning the income. This whole calculation of advance tax goes on the word estimation. And as and when you come closer to the end of the year, the estimation takes the position of more true picture. Now, ma'am, what is estimation? How would I estimate? First of all, if you are a person who has only salary income, you don't have to worry about. You have to sit back and relax, because every information, if you're provided to the employer, he will deduct the TDS under 192. But if I'm a business SSC, if I'm a person who has a income from tuition fees, other fees, or if I have interest incomes at a higher amount, but उसमें TDS at 10%. Suppose I have an interest income during the year from FD and very attractive interest income of say 8 lakh. FD pay, debentures pay, sub pay, but the rate is hardly 10%, right? And when I go to an 8 lakh slab, the income would be taxed at 20%. So the variation will come. It's not always necessary that if TDS and TCS has happened, the TDS has been deducted from me, or I've given the TCS amount, there would be no liability of advance tax and I can sit back and relax. No, there would always be a liability that I have to take from my income as a whole. I have to see what my entire income is, what are my entire deductible expenditures, how much a person is deducting TDS, and whatever the difference is, I should give it to the government as advance tax. Okay, so please do not always assume that if your income is tax deductible, no advance tax liability would come to you. Just like, for example, on rent, I am getting a rent of 10 lakh per annum from a bank, and they are deducting the TDS at the rate of 10%. But obviously, if the income is 10 lakh per annum, something from my pocket has to be given as tax. Something from my pocket has to be given as tax, and that's when I have to do advance tax. Now, advance tax would come on estimate. How will I do? I will prepare a computation based on the estimation in the previous year itself. Based on the estimation, I will take all my incomes. I will calculate the tax on it after the deduction. ठीक है कि मैं इतना तो deduct कर लूंगी. After the tax, I will see कि कितना assuming TDS भी deduct होगा. So suppose here I have taken professional receipts of 5 lakhs. I will assume कि इस पे 50,000 TDS तो deduct होगा ही. Here I have taken rent of say 10 lakh. So I will assume कि इस पे 1 lakh TDS deduct होगा ही होगा. Like that, I will take and I will come to my estimated net tax liability. Estimated net tax liability. So if my estimated net tax liability for that year is 10,000 or more, then advance tax provisions from 208 to 219 would be applicable. Okay, what did I say? The estimated tax liability. I'm not talking about this tax liability. After everything, what I have to pay from my own pocket, that is called estimated tax liability. Okay? If that is 10,000 or more, then I will deposit the advance tax. Now, how will I deposit the advance tax? Anytime I like? No. That advance tax has to be deposited in 4 installments. One is before 15 June, another on or before 15 June, another is on or before 15 September, 15 December, and 15th of March. Very bad handwriting, no? बस थोड़ा सा दे. ठीक है, अब यहां तक ये, so you will say ma'am 10,000 divided by 4. No, since estimation would go true towards the end of the year, so by 15th of June I have to sorry. By 15th of June, I have to deposit 15% of my estimated tax liability, advance tax liability, then up to 15 September तक total 45%, then 15 December तक total 75%, and then 15th March तक total 100%. So suppose if my advance tax liability is coming to say 45,000, so how much I have to deposit is 45,000 ka 15% should be deposited, which is 6,7. I will use it here. June तक 45,000 का 15%, which is 6,750 has to be deposited. Then 15 September तक 45,000 का 45%, 20, 20 to 50. This has to be deposited in accumulation. But if I have deposited 6,750 earlier, that means this installment में 13,500. Government को till 15 September 20,250 आ जाना चाहिए. That can come in the first installment or second installment, but till second installment I have to give 20,250, which is 45% of my liability. Ma'am, हम सारा एक साथ deposit करा दें, sit back and relax? No, हाँ. You can deposit सारा एक साथ and sit back and relax. No one will say anything, but you will unnecessarily block your capital, working capital. Okay. Then by 15th of December, 45,000 ka 75% should come to the government, which is 33,750. That means next installment will be I will deposit, correct, 13,500. And by the month of 15th March, full 45,000 should come to them, which is 11,250. So you will see this in total comes to 45,000. I am not saying कि हर month हर installment में 15 September में 20,000 करो, नहीं. Till this time, till second installment up to 45%, till 15 December up to 75%, till 15th March up to 100%. So whatever you have deposited earlier would be reduced to match the installment amount. Whatever you have deposited earlier would be reduced to match the installment amount. So suppose मैंने first installment में 10,000 करा दिया, तो by 15 September I have to deposit 10,250. गवर्नमेंट के पास उस डेट तक, सेकेंड इंस्टॉलमेंट की डेट तक 45% should reach. सपोज मैम मैंने कुछ भी नहीं डिपॉजिट कराया था फर्स्ट इंस्टॉलमेंट में, सेकेंड इंस्टॉलमेंट में सब कुछ कराना है, तो फुल 20,250 टू नॉट बी अ डिफॉल्टर. यहां तक कोई डाउट? So whatever I deposit before 15 June would be considered part of my first installment. Whatever I deposit between 16 June to 15 September would be considered part of my second installment. Whatever I deposit between 16 December to 15th March would be part of my last installment. ठीक है, ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर मैं 16 दिसंबर को कर रही हूँ और मैं डिपार्टमेंट को बोलूँ कि सेकंड इंस्टॉलमेंट में ले लो या थर्ड इंस्टॉलमेंट में ले लो, या ये मैं सेकंड इंस्टॉलमेंट का करा रही हूँ या थर्ड इंस्टॉलमेंट का, दिस इज माय सेकंड इंस्टॉलमेंट और थर्ड इंस्टॉलमेंट, डिपार्टमेंट विल नॉट टेक इट. आई हैव टू deposit it between these dates. So it would be automatically, if I'm depositing on 16 December, I'm depositing it for the 4th installment. Okay. Yahan tak clear? Perfect. Now, advance tax is not necessary that you make it on own estimation. Sometimes the advance tax can have to be deposited if the government asks you to. So this generally happens when the entities are a big contributor to tax. Government को funds चाहिए होता है. AO का phone comes. I have seen in my own practical life. AO calls, generally they call during this March period कि boss 5 crore का tax deposit कराओ, and then you have to deposit it. You cannot help it because they will issue your notice and you will give the estimation and they will work under section 210. वो estimation basis पे, because they see कि हाँ, this year this person had so much income, this year this person has not deposited उतना tax for the current year, so they call you up and they say कि क्या बात है, इतना क्यों नहीं कराया, just deposit the tax. So you deposit it as advance tax. Remember one thing more, anything deposited between 1st April to 31st March of the previous year. So अगर मैं 1st April 2022 to 31st March 2023 में कुछ anything which I deposit is advance tax only. It will not say that after 15th March if I am depositing it is not advance tax. No. If it is being deposited in the previous year itself, it is advance tax. Whatever I deposit after 1st or on words 1st April 2023 would be a self-assessment tax. दोनों में self assessment ही हो रहा है, दोनों self analysis से ही I am depositing, but the nomenclature changes. From in the previous year, whatever is getting deposited is advance tax. Immediately the previous year ends and the assessment year begins, whatever I'm depositing is self-assessment tax for assessment year 22-23. हाँ, अब June 23 में मैं अगर assessment year 24-25 का कुछ deposit करा रही हूँ, that is the advance tax for assessment year 24-25. Okay, clear? Another thing, the person who has 44AD ka income, 44ADA ka income, they have to deposit tax only in one single installment, and that is by 15th of March. And that is by 15th of March. So it is always recommended that you should make as close as real estimation of your advance tax liability. If you have good cash flow, if you have a very good working capital flow, then deposit an extra amount of tax. Why? Because interest liabilities happen under 234B and 234C. Also, there are certain incomes which you cannot estimate. अब जैसे capital gain income को I cannot estimate. अब 15 December को capital gain. So ma'am, how would I assume कि मेरे को वो जून में estimate कर लेना चाहिए? Obviously नहीं कर सकते. If before the 3rd installment you are getting capital gain, then the duty comes that 15 December तक 75%. Okay, let me give an example. Suppose when I started my estimation of tax, it was 45,000. Okay, but on 15th November, I got capital gain. And after capital gain, my estimation of tax increased to 80,000. Now, how should I ensure that I am not a defaulter? So, ma'am, Yani, do you think I have done a deposit failure because do you think 80,000 ka 15% should have, which is 12,000 should have been deposited by June? No. यहाँ पे the installments which should be would be same as your 6750. should be installments बता रही हूँ 6750. The ideal installment 6750, 13,500. Now it would be 80,000 का 75% and full 80,000. So these are the ideal installments. Like dividend हुआ, you will not estimate it now. You don't know which company would be giving you dividend. So that would be included in the estimation of the installment which is falling immediately after the occurrence of that income. That would be included in the estimation of installment which is falling immediately after the occurrence of the income, and in that case this would not be considered as a defaulting scenario. Okay, this you have to see when you're doing 234B and C ka interest calculation. This part is clear? यहाँ तक किसी को any doubt? कौश की 15 नवंबर को मुझे कैपिटल गेन हुआ, ठीक है, उसके बाद माय एडवांस टैक्स लायबिलिटी जो टोटल टैक्स लायबिलिटी मैंने एज्यूम करा था that would have been कि 80,000 होना चाहिए, 45,000 होना चाहिए, but since capital gain happened so my estimated tax liability increased to 80,000. So now immediate falling installment is 15 December. So law says 75% of the advance tax liability should be deposited, यहाँ पे I'm making a mistake, should have been deposited by 15th December. So 80,000 का 75% is 60,000. That means 60,000 should have been deposited by 15th of December. और यहाँ पे I have forgot to written the full amount. 15th of September तक $20,250 should have been deposited. ठीक है, so 60,000 should have been deposited by 15th of December and 15th of March तक 80,000 should have been deposited. So यहाँ पे तो I'm be depositing 20,000 as a difference, and यहाँ पे I would be depositing 39,750 as advance tax, and this is 13,500. This is 6,750. These are the accumulated balances which should have been deposited by advance tax. Okay. ठीक है, 234B और C का इंटरेस्ट गाइस निकाल लोगे डिफरेंस, because we have a very time shortage. तो अगर मैं B and C में गई, we will take another 25 or 30 minutes. ठीक है, I'll just quickly tell B and C का इंटरेस्ट निकालते टाइम what you have to take care and how do you have to calculate. B is very simple. 234B का इंटरेस्ट निकालते टाइम you have to see what is the total tax deposited during the year as advance tax. If it is less than 90% of the total tax liability, then 234B would be attracted on the entire shortfall, not on the shortfall of 90% and the actual, and it would be calculated from 1st April. Of the assessment year till the time you actually deposit it. ठीक है, 1st April से this would be started, and 234C, which is default in your advance tax installment, that is for Sorry. That is for default in each installment. So suppose यहाँ पे by the end of each installment, this is the cumulative amount I'm writing. I have deposited only 2,000. I have deposited only cumulative amount 17,000. I have deposited only 51,000. I have deposited only 73,000. Okay. So what is the shortfall? Shortfall would be A minus B. This is A minus B. यहाँ पे 4750. यहाँ पे 3250. This is 9,000. And this is 7,000. So these have been the shortfall. In pay 1% for 3 months. That is till next installment. Ka interest would be applicable on the shortfall. 4750 into 1% into 3. Then 3250 into 1% into 3. Then 9,000 into 1% into 3. And 7,000 into 1% into 1. Reason so? Why ma'am only till 3? Because June, July, 15 June to 15th, 15 June to 14 July, 15 July to 15 July to 14th August and 15th August to 14th September तक का ही default है. उसके बाद वाला जो default है, it is getting attracted here. Then उसके बाद वाला default is getting attracted here, and this is from 15th March to 31st March. Because after 31st March, 234D gets applied. Okay. So itne default pe you will calculate the interest. Total interest would be 234C. But remember one thing, students, since it is a pure estimation case, it is a pure estimation case. So अगर आप first installment में 15% and second installment में 45%, 15 and 45% नहीं deposit करा के सिर्फ 12 and 36% करते हो, then even if there is a shortfall, no interest would be applicable. Even if there is a shortfall, no interest would be applicable because they say कि okay, estimation है as close as possible होना चाहिए. Exact possible in the first half of the year may not be possible. So if 12% or 36% in accumulation has been done, that would also be a considered amount and we will not charge the interest. And we will not charge interest. This is written in 234C. This is only for the interest. It does not say कि आप 12% and 36% ही deposit कराओ. It says 15 and 45. But if you have done 12% and 36% in the respective first and second installment, then it is okay, no problem. No interest would be charged for the shortfall for the first 2 installments. Later on, it would be charged. Okay, so that's it from my side on your entire chapter of 15. We have discussed like close to 96% or 97% provisions which are important, relevant for your exam and in practical life also. Please go through them. Please read them word by word. Take your book as a Bible, study material as a Bible. Please go through the amendments because TDS, TCS is the favorite topic of the government also and for the institute also to bring the questions on. Okay? So any other doubt? I hope you people had a great learning time because I definitely did. Third installment के लिए load installment नहीं है Koshki. The reason is कि first half तक के year में estimation का some difference can happen. That's why 12 and 36 is allowed. Again, I'm saying the installments are not 12 and 36. Installments are 15, 45, 75 and 100. But for the purpose of interest, they can waive off or they will not charge the interest if the installment has come into the percentage of 12 and 36% in the first and second installment. Okay? Any other doubt? Please drop in your feedbacks. Have a good time. All the best for the exams. Do not stress out from the volume of the TP, but love how relatable it is. Okay, my best wishes to all of you. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, sir.